gains that persist well into elementary and middle school. These are children who arrive into kindergarten more prepared, more confident, and ready to access everything that their education has to offer. We've built that, and we're excited to build something even better here in DC. As you've seen through our recent review, our school has shown really strong academic progress and has really a ton of momentum going forward. And we feel really ready to build on that through this early childhood alignment. To support it, under our proposed governance structure, we'll have a dedicated vice principal that will oversee both early childhood and early elementary grades, creating clear accountability and intentional alignment across those early years. Our principal and instructional coaches will support the pre-K teachers directly as well, really, again, grounding their practice in both early childhood best practices and then school-wide instructional priorities. And then at the network level, I'll provide specialized oversight and guidance to make sure that we're meeting the highest level of standard for all of our students. The board will maintain oversight through regular reporting on enrollment and program implementation and academic outcomes. And the board's academic achievement committee will receive consistent updates on all operational and academic areas as well. This is really about ensuring that from a child's very first day, they're not merely adjacent to the Learn DC community, they're at the center of it. In regards to implementation, we've been really thoughtful and deliberate through every step of the way. We formally notified Appletree of our decision in December 2025, informed families in January, and we've been hosting town halls ever since to keep families informed, heard, and really confident in the transition. Board Chair Presswood met with the commissioners of ANC 8D and members of the local community about the charter amendment as well. And our school leaders are conducting really structured learning walks alongside Appletree leaders to ensure that the continuity through the end of the partnership, and that all required compliance processes are completed well before the partnership formally concludes in June 26. We're not really building capacity while transferring responsibility. The capacity already exists. The families that choose Learn DC place an enormous amount of faith in us. They deserve a pre-K program that's fully ours to stand behind, fully aligned with our values, and fully committed to being the first experience that sets up a child for a lifetime of success. We're not asking the board to take a leap of faith. We're asking you to look at what we've built and look at what our data shows and trust that Learn DC is ready to run a thriving early childhood program here in Washington, DC. We respectfully ask for your board's approval of this governance amendment, and thank you. Welcome any questions.
Thank you so much. We'll begin with Board Member Crucy and then wrap up our questioning with Secretary Marino.
Thank you so much for coming before us today. My question, I have two-part question. First is familiarity with within your school community. Can you share with us what kind of process you've gone through and how familiar your school community is incoming and already there with this change? And then second part here, can you walk us through risks and challenges to making this change?
Sorry, like halfway through your question, it cut out. Can you repeat that again?
I could tell. Did you hear the first part?
I heard the first part. The
first part is about
how well are they?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the second part was, can you share with us what some of the risks and plans to mitigate the risks of making this change? Had an expert outside operator for a number of years, and now you will not. Can you walk us through that? Thanks.
Yeah, totally. Families honestly are incredibly excited about the change, right? I think during town halls, we've seen a ton of really positive support. We've tried to really think of families as partners in that work, making sure that they're able to tell us what was the best parts, what were the hardest parts of sort of, your early childhood experience as you transition. And that's been really enlightening. I think, when we look through our enrollment numbers, which, we're 4 months out of announcing that transition. So enrollment had happened significantly after. Already we've got a wait list that's 60 kids over, what we can hold, right? There's a clear demand for the work. And again, families really value that work that principal person has done. And the thought that early childhood is gonna be, one school, one space is something that they've been really thriving for. I think when you think about the challenges, again, there's a ton of gratitude for Appletree. When we hired, one of the concerns initially was this idea of like, hey, who is the expert in the building? And we were able to hire a vice principal that had over 12 years of early childhood experience and a former early childhood school leader who is incredibly excited to be able to see through that early childhood into early elementary transition, which can be really difficult, right? Going from a completely play-based curriculum to going into kindergarten and first grade can be really hard. So someone having to really shepherd that through, I think it was huge, and was something that we identified really early. That was like, who's going to be the person? And then we're able to fill that gap right away. And so really thinking through that, that was one of the challenges that we tried to address. I think the things, again, that we're excited about is the like both instructional alignment, but also just like the cultural alignment, right? That when kids come in 3 years old, like they get to wear their gopher, they get to wear their gopher, uniform and get to be a part of all the things that a sixth grader at Learn DC is a part of as well. And seeing that all the way through, I think is incredibly impactful.
Secretary Marino.
Thank you so much for both the thoughtful presentation tonight and for the proposal. I wanted to hear a little bit more about the deliberation process around the choice of curriculum. I can appreciate and understand what you just spoke to in terms of the instructional and cultural alignment that comes in particular from using a program that you're also using in Illinois. And when you came before us a couple of months ago as a team, we talked about the importance of recruitment in Ward 8 specifically, so families that are not on the base. So I'd love to hear what you're hearing in particular from prospective families in Ward 8 about the choice of play-based curriculum. How are folks responding to that? And two, what your learning process was like of looking at other pre-K programs in DC that are having a lot of success and how that informed your selection of curriculum.
Yeah, so I think there are two pieces. I think the familiarity with creative curriculum happening in Illinois obviously speaks to sort of the ability for our instructional coaches and all of us to be speaking sort of like the same language, right? There's a it'd be silly to not think of this idea of like expanding as many resources as we can, right? We also think that when thinking through sort of like what parents were really looking for, we asked a sort of simple question of like, what do you hope for your students when we put out a parent survey? And most oftentimes parents were saying things like, I really want my kid to be happy. I really want my kid to love school. I want my kid to make sure that they're thriving when they come to school. I want them to run there, right? Is something that we heard over and over again. I think internally, we also know that we need to make sure that people are going ahead, that our students are thriving once they get to kindergarten and have all of the academic needs necessary, right? So we aren't conflating sort of this idea of like a play-based curriculum and also rigor, right? Joy and rigor are inherently at tension, and we like believe that deep in our heart. I think when thinking about the second piece of the question, when thinking about sort of like DC, I currently live in Illinois, but I spent 13 years in DC, formerly as an early childhood principal, right? It is a deep, personal connection that I have to that work. So as you're thinking of tools of the mind, as you're thinking of creative curriculum, as you're thinking about, Apple Tree's own curriculum, those are all incredibly valid and, they do great work. I think our ability to really hone in on this idea that like, we're going to get kids to love school. And then we're going to make sure that when we're thinking about Heggerty, they know all of their letter sounds and letter names. And when they get to kindergarten, they're going to be, running through the door, ready to thrive. Those things are things that we've heard and things that we like inherently believe. Is there a part of your question that I didn't answer there?
Yeah, you spoke to a parent survey, which I assume is a survey of your current families. So I'd love to hear prospective families that you're working to recruit, what you're hearing about curriculum choices from prospective families who live in Ward 8, not on the base.
Yeah, so I think, when we recruit for other families, we tell them what the curriculum is, right? There isn't inherently like you get to choose this or this. We're telling them that it's a play-based curriculum. We really ground it in this idea of like, it's developmentally appropriate. Again, same idea. When you're 3 years old, it doesn't make sense to be like cranking out worksheets all day. What you should be doing is learning, through play and making sure that you're building your schema. It's our responsibility to ultimately teach the teachers, hey, these are the standards. And I know that on April 27th, every 3-year-old and every 4-year-old should know this and this, right? we create these beautiful environments that get kids to love school, while the teachers ultimately are the ones responsible, of course, for making sure that kids are where they need to be. Parents really buy into that mission, right? It's something that they also believe in, right? And again, what we make it abundantly clear is that they're going to come into our classrooms. They're going to see these really beautiful spaces. They're going to see kids playing. They're also going to see a ton of learning, right? Because learning at 3 years old doesn't look what learning looks like when you're in sixth grade, right? It's just not the same thing. And ultimately, if we were in really impactful early childhood spaces, we don't remember loving school that way, right? You're 3 years old. We do remember being in sixth grade and trigonometry or whatever. And you can tell I never taught sixth grade. But yeah, parents have really bought into that space. Both when they come in for school visits or when we recruit, out in the ward.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Learn Team. I do have one last question. This is coming from me. Shauna, this is to you. Really quickly, so I'm hearing a lot about the excitement for and the demand that you all are building with respect to your waiting lists and excitement to join the program. Can you share with me a little bit about any concerns you've heard from either staff or families during the process? What are the specific concerns that folks have with the transition of Apple Tree from your school? And then how are you responding to that feedback?
Thank you for your question. I want I want to say that if anything, there's been conversations around why haven't we done it sooner from families more so than a concern about it happening. However, those that have emerged were simply, how is it different from Every Child Ready? Right. And so when we had our presentations and brought families into the fold early on, it was making sure we were very clear about what the similarities and differences are. And ultimately, they just want to know, will my students still grow? Right? Will they enter kindergarten ready or will they be behind? And I'll tell you that with the merger, it made it, there were some challenges in terms of data sharing and making sure that students came in with the skills that we needed them to come in with in order to transition to our curriculum. And so there were gaps. However, when we met with families and we played out what this looks like, we put a side-by-side comparison of the two. I believe we were able to create a sense of comfort with the transition specifically. They wanted to know too about whether or not we had experience with pre-K before. So we shared that with them. Having Mr. Rodriguez, who was a former principal in DC of early childhood, is helpful. Our assistant principal, also assistant principal of early childhood school in DC before as well. So we had that, I would guess, in our favor to be able to say we've done this before, not just, in Illinois, but we also have people who are well versed in pre-K on our school team who will help with this transition as well. We invite families in not just for the town halls when he's coming up monthly to have informational sessions and town halls, but also to take tours and connect with kindergarten shadow days where they're coming in and they're spending time in the kindergarten classroom, again, so that they feel comfortable with the transition. I have not heard anything that was challenging enough where I would say, hey, we need to abort mission. I've only heard that let's continue. We're doing the right thing. They hear us. They know that we've been doing well with our students. They trust us. Let's move forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And I just want to, one last question. I want to build on the question from Secretary Marino around engagement with Ward 8 families. What does recruitment specifically look like in the ward? Again, noting the promise from your school and to the community. Can you just speak a little bit more concretely about what that has looked like?
Yeah, so ultimately for me, the goal is to continue to increase our Ward 8 population, regardless of the grade level. And that was part of our addition of our parent recruitment and engagement liaison, who actually is a Ward 8 representative. And so she's in those attending the events in the community. She's connecting with families. She knows that that's one of her KPIs. So every time she's out there, she's building partnerships with other organizations to bring kids in. The Boys and Girls Club was one of those partnerships as well, right? Just being out there and connecting with families. So she's in their space to connect with them. She's attended some of the daycares in order to bring families on as well in the neighborhood. I can't speak to all of the names because I don't live in DC, unfortunately, but she does. And so I would say she knows that this is the priority and she's actively engaging them. We do believe in the pre-K for all philosophy, and we want to make sure that we do it well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, I have one more question. Treasurer Stanley BD.
Thank you for that. I took you off guard, Chair Autumn. May I just ask a question of the Learn team? Who on this team that's present, who lives in DC? Is there nobody on represented tonight that lives in DC?
I live in Maryland, so
I,
yeah.
I'm a DC resident. I live in Ward 8.
Okay. Okay, great. And
Can you
I'm
hear
sorry,
me?
Miss
Okay, cool.
Presswood, is that your last name?
Yes,
Mr.
that's
Presswood. And
correct.
what's your role at the school?
Chair.
Great. Wonderful. And the other folks on the line, their roles?
So beyond the principal, you have folks they're from network.
Okay.
The principal lives in the DMV, but everyone else is from network, which is largely based out of Chicago.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to the Learn team. We will discuss this next month. Thank you. Finally,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you all. Okay. Finally, Sterling Temp from the School Performance Department will introduce the amendment request from Brea Public Charter School. I also invite representatives from the school to introduce themselves after her remarks. Thank you. Sterling.
Good evening. My name is Starling Temp. I am a senior specialist in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will hear from Brea Public Charter School regarding its request to amend its goals and academic achievement expectations. The school proposes revising its entered or retained employment and post-secondary goals into a singular goal, changing its mission-specific goals to align with its Aspire school-specific performance measures, removing its in-seat attendance goal, and updating the business rules for all goals. These changes ensure alignment between the school's charter goals, the Aspire policy and technical guide, and the standards defined in DC PCSB's charter goals policy. If approved, the changes will apply to school year 2025-26 and beyond. Representatives from the school are available to answer the board's questions.
Thank you, Sterling.
Hi.
Hi, there you go. They're very
Yes.
good. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Brea team. Christy, if you can start by introducing your team and then moving into your comments.
Yes, great. Good afternoon. So, yes, I would like to introduce Elizabeth Bowman, who is our Chief Academic Officer for Adult Ed, and Lisa Luceno, who is the Senior Director for Early Childhood Strategy. We also have Doris Garay, our board chair, and I don't know if you see her in there somewhere. She may be joining us soon. And then finally, we have Karen Hertzler, who is the Director of Accountability. And Karen will be sharing and participating with you this evening around our goals and reviewing our goals. We are happy to answer any questions in this 20th year of Brea. Our two-generation school is going through a wonderful year with parents and children, and we're looking forward to celebrating their graduations next month. And we had Dr. Walker Davis come and visit us just a few weeks ago, and we welcome any board member who hasn't come to come and visit visit us anytime. And I will turn it over to Karen to talk about our goals.
Good evening. I'm Karen Hertzler, and I was part of as were Christine and Lisa, part of the original team who proposed Brea Public Charter School in the original charter application. And we just have some small, what I consider small updates to our goals and I'll review those for you. So as Starling said, one change is to consolidate we had two employment and post-secondary goals, and we're consolidating those into one goal to align with the way Aspire does it now. And we will also increase the target for that employment measure to 70%. So one purpose of consolidating is so that we can use the same data set to report both for Aspire and for the charter goals. Another change is we're aligning our Aspire school-specific measures. Brea is strengthening its existing pre-K parent-teacher conferences charter goal to require participation in at least 2 of 3 parent-teacher conferences during the year. So that was an existing goal. We're just increasing the amount of times that you're required to participate in a conference to meet the target. Next, we're adding a new measure that will address students who come to the school with infant and toddler children. So as I'm sure you know, Brea parents bring their children 0 to 5 with them to school. And so this measure will address parent engagement for that younger group, parent engagement in conferences with their infant and toddler children's teachers. We will also be removing our adult in-seat attendance measure, and that is also to align with Aspire. And finally, updating applicable business rules for the charter goals as recommended by the PCSB staff. So with these changes, we'll have a total of 8 goals related to adult, early childhood, and 2-generation education. We're happy to talk about any questions.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you to the Brea team. Vice Chair Yan.
Thank you. Thank you to the Brea team for your presentation and explanations. The one that I just had a question on was in-seat attendance. So I understand removing the measure, it doesn't exist in Aspire, and adult schools attendance is just a little bit different. My understanding, and PCSB staff can correct me, is that there is a persistence measure in the adult framework for Aspire to help measure student engagement. So can you all speak to how you plan to measure student engagement, whether that exists in a different measure that you will be reporting publicly, or if there's a different approach that you plan to take?
Well, we see, first of all, it will be measured in persistence with the Aspire framework. So that will still definitely be part of our reporting. We see persistence as kind of a leading indicator into the other measures. So we're still measuring how our students are doing on the CASA standardized exam and what educational functioning levels they're progressing. All of the persistence is important because you have to stay long enough to meet those measures. So, we feel quite good about our history of persistence for our students and are working to continue to increase upon that. But I think it's more of a lead up to achieving our other measures is why you don't see it here with our other 8 goals.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to the Brea team. Thank you very much. Starling, I apologize. I mispronounced your name. Names are important. No, so thank you. Thank you to the Brea team. Thank you to all of the school leaders who joined us tonight. We will vote on these amendments during next month's meeting. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Moving right along. Next, we will have a public hearing on 2 related policies: the school expansion policy and the school reorganization policy. I yield the floor to Hannah Cousineau, Director of the School Performance Department.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Hannah Cousineau, and I'm a director in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will hold a public hearing on the school reorganization and its school expansion policies. This is the 5th public meeting in which the board has discussed these policies, underscoring their importance to the sector. The board is scheduled to vote on these policies at its June 29th meeting. The proposed school reorganization policy explains how DCPCSB will evaluate requests for mergers and acquisitions, 2 types of reorganization strategies. The proposed school expansion policy revises the existing enrollment ceiling increase policy. It describes how DCPCSB will evaluate charter amendment petitions for enrollment ceiling increases, or ECIs, changes in grades served, and campus replications. Before the board begins its discussion, staff has prepared a short presentation to situate these policies within DCPCSB's broader oversight, review engagement efforts to date, and identify unresolved questions for your consideration. So without further ado, next slide, please. Board, I hope you will find many of these slides retread information that we shared during the April 8th roundtable, but I thought it was important to re-ground us in that, especially for those in the audience tonight. So this slide here is something that Dr. Walker Davis presented at that April 8th roundtable, and it attempts to summarize the scope of DCPCSB's oversight activities. So at the top, you will see our vision for schools, the 3 kind of qualities that we are looking for, excellence and equality in our equity in our schools, the ability for them to meet need and demand, and finally for them to be financially sustainable. And in order to meet that vision, you'll see in this middle section, we have created a host of policies and guidance and data points. There's 3 columns, each relate to a pillar of that overall vision. And tonight's focus is on that sector planning policy suite. And when we mention that suite, we are referring to our new school charter application guidelines, the proposed school expansion policy, and the proposed school reorganization policy, as well as an enrollment outlook that we are creating in partnership with the DC Policy Center. But this does not stand alone, and you'll see there are those arrows right from the Aspire circle and the School Financial Oversight Policy circle that inform the way that we created and plan to implement our sector planning policy suite. And finally, we acknowledge that at the end of the day, one of our main activities as the charter authorizer is to conduct reviews and renewals of our charter schools. And you'll notice that there is this dotted arrow, right, with 2 points going from the sector planning policy suite to the review and renewals, demonstrating the way that reviews and renewals can influence the way that we utilize those policies. So for example, if at the end of a charter review, the board determines that we should initiate the revocation process of a school, that might put into play an acquisition that would be then governed by the school reorganization policy. Next slide, please. So, what is sector planning? To define that term, we use this definition. Sector planning is how we use data, policy, and decision-making to shape a charter sector that is quality, responsive to community needs, diverse in its offerings, and finally sustainable, meaning that they are able to consistently enroll students over time and meet those targets. You'll notice that each of those three boxes gives some further information on what that looks like. So for example, when we're talking about data, that is encompassing demographic data, enrollment data, community needs, as well as performance data. So thinking once again to our circles, performance data can include information from like our Aspire system. Policy, which we'll be talking about mostly tonight, sets out standards and clear processes for schools to follow in order to submit requests. And finally, the board has its duty to vote on requests to open, expand, reorganize, and even close schools, thereby further shaping this charter sector that we want to see. Next slide. The three circles there go into more detail about our sector planning policy suite. When we use that term, we're referring to three policies or guidelines, as I mentioned: the new school charter application guidelines, the school reorganization policy, and the school expansion policy. Those orange and red circles, the school reorganization and school expansion policies, are what we are here tonight to hold a public hearing on, and you are scheduled to vote on for adoption at our June meeting. It's also, though, noteworthy to say that last month we did release our 2026 new school charter application guidelines. So those are out there in the public. And the animating force behind all three of these policies is, one, our desire to align them to Aspire so that we ensure that decisions are driven by student outcomes and promote equity within our city. Second, that our decisions are transparent, cohesive, and goal-oriented. And we do that by analyzing data and creating a policy framework that makes sense to school leaders and the public. And finally, we set out to modernize and clarify the rules for opening, expanding, merging, and acquiring schools. That was a major piece of feedback that I heard throughout this process, is that schools want there to be clear processes by which we evaluate their requests. And it's an opportunity for us to reinforce that vision we want from the sector. Next slide, please. Okay. This slide shows where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going in the future. The proposed school reorganization policy creates pathways for mergers and acquisitions, and specifically two types of acquisitions: standard ones and emergency ones. This would be a brand new policy for DC PCSB. We met in 2025 with a whole bunch of people: school leaders, city partners, other national organizations, other authorizers. And that really informed the policy that we first opened for public comment way back when in October. And since then, we've iterated in response to the public comment that we've received. The version before you today aligns to Aspire and these sector planning pillars that we have infused throughout that policy suite. So things like a common set of guiding principles and a multi-stage review process. If adopted, it would be a national leading model. As we spoke about at the roundtable earlier in April, there are not many authorizers that have policies on the books today related to mergers and acquisitions. And so this is an opportunity for DC to really make a real clear statement about how those strategies fit within a modern era of authorizing. Next, the proposed school expansion policy governs how we plan to evaluate types of expansion requests. So enrollment ceiling increases, changes in grades served, as well as campus replications. The existing ECI policy was first adopted in 2010. We've updated it a few times over time, but haven't touched it since 2018. It needs a refresher, specifically so that it can reference Aspire, right? It still depends on us considering our previous accountability framework. And even though we created some guidance in 2023 to consider more recent data sources, only by officially revising the policy can we move forward with that vision for the sector and the scope of new authorizing policies and data inputs that we are considering today. The public comment window closed today for this policy. So it does not incorporate anything new we've heard today, but that final version will incorporate any public comment as well as considerations that were brought up at the roundtable and the discussion we're going to have in a few moments. Next slide. This table here gives you a sense of just how much has gone into these policies, the way that we've engaged school leaders and other stakeholders, and what that approval process looks like. We are today, April 27th. That column there just highlights the amount of discussion we've already had on these policies and the ways that we've engaged with school leaders and other community members and experts today. Once again, our target vote is June 29th. And after that vote, if approved, we would begin policy implementation. And my final slide. So at the April 8th roundtable, and in reflecting in kind of this long journey we've taken, staff has identified like 3 big topics or questions that I think we need to address in the final version. And you might have some more to add to this list, but this was, in my mind, ones that we definitely needed to address. First is this concept of a de minimis expansion request. I believe it was Peter Anderson from Washington Latin, but as well as other members of our school expansion policy working group with school leaders, brought up that PCSB should come up with some type of abbreviated review process for schools seeking small enrollment increases. And so we can talk tonight about what that could look like, as well as how we're defining small. Another area for consideration is around financial trend performance and how our final policies can include considerations for year-to-year financial performance, maybe in a way in which, similar to a way we're considering like year-to-year Aspire performance. But I know we'll talk about that more in a second. And then finally, I think we still have this unresolved question around that merger pathway and what minimum eligibility criteria can look like specifically for that year-to-year Aspire performance. We continue to hear questions about pushing us to consider requests from merging schools that earn level 3 or higher on Aspire for 2 of the 3 preceding years. The current criteria as proposed in the policy is that in a partnership of 2 merging schools, at least one needs to earn a level 2 or higher on Aspire for 2 of 3 years, whereas that second merging school partner can earn a level 3 or higher. So we could potentially broaden that scope or think of some other ways to consider a more inclusive standard. So on that note, I will hand it over to you all for your questions.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Vice Chair Yen?
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah, and the entire PCSB team. We've come a very long way. I know this has been a very thorough process, and I think it's a very exciting place for us to be. Like you mentioned, this is going to be a national model for a set of policies. So appreciate all those who've provided public input, comment, and all of the ways the staff has sought to incorporate that. For these 3 things, first of all, thank you, Hannah, for putting them together. I'm generally supportive of all 3 of these. I do want to speak to the last one in particular. I think unsurprisingly, I do believe that we should remove the criteria that one of the schools needs to be a level 2 or higher. I recognize that I think merger applications are going to be rare. I don't think we're going to get a lot of them. I think it's a hard thing for schools to decide willingly to undergo a merger. And I believe it can be an innovative tool towards school improvement. It can help schools establish feeder patterns. It can help them combine unique strengths, see economies of scale. And I think there's probably ideas that we just don't know yet. I think we even heard during our last roundtable that there just aren't that many national examples of mergers. And so with both a lack of national examples and I think an anchor in innovation in mind, I don't want us to create too many stage gates from the start. I certainly don't mean that we should approve every set of level 3 schools that comes before us, but I think right now where we are, this is the first version of this policy. I would like us to at least allow applications from level 3 schools. So I'll just say that on that piece. One other thing that I would like us to consider, and I'd raised this at a previous meeting, is that for the emergency acquisitions path, I would like us to ask whether they have received interest from other LEAs in the process and to indicate, I think in the section around consistency of mission, a justification for why the acquiring LEA is the best fit. I think without, and I've talked to staff about, should we make it an open request for acquisitions? I recognize that the timeline can be tight for that. So I think at a minimum, we need to understand whether and how they've considered other LEAs in that process to ensure that the acquiring one actually is the best possible fit. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Vice Chair Yan. Secretary Marino.
Thank you so much. I want to echo Michelle's thanks, Hannah, for your incredible work on this, for Dr. Walker Davis, the team, and also want to thank the folks who participated in our roundtable earlier this month, the folks who have been involved in working groups, people who have submitted public comment. There has been so much that has gone into these policies, and I just want to appreciate the effort that's been involved. And I want to start by saying I think the animating criteria for me and all of our decision making around our policy work should be what's going to drive quality for young people in DC. And I think these policies reflect a number of really important components that align well to that. And I think we're at a place in the process where with some relatively minor adjustments, we can strengthen it even further. So I agree with Michelle's comments on the school reorganization policy and would support those changes. And I want to underscore the piece around allowing consideration of 2 level 3 schools does not mean approval of level 3 schools. I think there's a tension as we change these policies. In the piece you mentioned, Hannah, about school leaders wanting real clarity in decision making. And I think that's important. And to me, as we look to drive quality in the city, we should be balancing space for innovation that's going to drive quality with the need for clarity for school leaders. And so to me, I think we should be a little bit more expansive in order to hear a broader set of applications to the extent that they could help improve quality in the city. I also support hearing more about the de minimis requests on expansion. And I just add a question to that of how grade level intersects with enrollment increases, because I think we got some public comment on that piece specifically. The last thing I'd say is that on the school reorganization policy, it's an incredibly complicated policy. And at the end of the day, I think what matters most is the decisions this board makes in terms of holding schools accountable. And I think we need to keep raising the bar on accountability in order to ensure that folks who need to take seriously the idea of a merger or an acquisition in service of quality are doing so. And so the policy, of course, is an important foundation for this work. But I think in order to use it to drive quality, we're going to have to increase accountability at the same time. And so I'm looking forward to working with my fellow board members and with the team on how this policy can be paired with increased accountability over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Marino. Board Member Salmon.
Yes, thank you, Chair Adamafanian, and thank you, Hannah, for the great presentation and for all your work on this proposal. I have a different view from Michelle and Maura. The exercise of the board's authority to approve a combination of two schools is an opportunity for us to improve the quality of the combined entity. The proposal that's been made is the result of a lot of research and expert advice intended to further that goal, to elevate the quality of the combined entity. I think it's a wise proposal. I think we should have a high standard before we permit two schools to combine. I think the recommendation is based on the reality that when you combine two middle-of-the-road acceptable but unexceptional entities, you end up with a larger middle-of-the-road acceptable but unexceptional entity. That was the conclusion of the experts that we retained to advise us. They reported that experience in other jurisdictions across the country is consistent with that, although, as I recall, they qualified that observation by saying there aren't many examples of mergers of charter schools across the country, and I accept that. But I'm just also guided by my personal experience. I used to be an antitrust lawyer, and I've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the for-profit sector. I've also seen them in the not-for-profit sector. And anytime I have seen a combination of two middle-of-the-road, acceptable but unacceptable entities, the combined entity has not resulted in improved consumer service or higher quality. I think the place to start is by having a high standard to insist that at least one of the two schools be level 2 or higher. If with experience we find that that's too restrictive, we can reconsider, but I think it would be difficult to move in the other direction, to start with a policy that allows two level 3 schools to merge and then try to change to a policy where one has to be level 2 or higher. I think our goal should be to elevate the quality of the combined entity, and I think the proposal is the best way to do that.
Thank you, Board Member Salmon. Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Adamafania. I just wanted to put some color on the financial trend performance suggestion. That was something that I would like to see added, quite frankly, to both policies, wherever we're mentioning KFIs. And it's solely because, as you all have probably surmised, KFIs are a metric for a point in time. And so for these types of decisions, we really should be introducing financial performance that allows us to see where the LEA is over a period of time. I think that's a broader context, and I think that that gives us more information and a greater foundation, quite frankly, from which to discuss these issues. I think point in time metrics can be dangerous simply because they're not as informative as you think they are. So that's where that was coming from. I agree with you, Hannah. I think you said something like framing it around the way we're looking at charter school goals, maybe on a 3-year period. We can talk about what it looks like, but that was my rationale for the suggestion, is that point in time metrics are just not enough.
Thank you so much, Treasurer Stanley Beatty. I want to echo the sentiment of my colleagues. Thank you to the entire team for your work. I remember when this was a budding idea to now something just about full grown. So thank you all for your work. Thank you all to the public who's contributed really, really robust feedback, to our school leaders and other stakeholders who've engaged with us. Thank you all so much, Dr. Walker Davis, for steering this. I want to dig in here. I think of all of the pieces, the piece that I am my Saturday morning thinking time is really spent on our merger policies, particularly around that level 3. And one question that has really come to mind for me is around what is the balance of quality versus stability? And I'm also taking into account what Jim said with respect to if we start the bar high, it's a lot easier over time to kind of level set it according to what's going on. But the specific question is this. And I want to open it up to my colleagues to respond, react. Hannah, please, Dr. Walker Davis would love your thoughts as well. How do we ensure that, but again, when I'm thinking about the level 3 schools, how do we ensure that reorganization improves student outcomes and doesn't simply preserve stability at the expense of quality, particularly, and this is where it's really sticking for me, in our most underserved communities with our most underserved students. And so how do we ensure that this isn't just to focus on stabilizing schools, but actually driving quality? So would love to hear from starting from my colleagues and then staff, you all join in as you hear things. Just that one. That's just the mergers, level 3. That's the one I've been thinking about. So would love to hear how you all are wrestling with that. And then I have one other question.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I mean, I think a merger itself is not stability, right? It is a fundamental change to an organization. And so I think both the understanding of why are two schools merging, what is the purpose behind it, the goal behind it, that allows us to get at how is this going to lead to a path towards improvement and to encourage them to think differently about what things look like today. Because if you are a level 3 school today and to Jim words, you're fine, you're not exceptional, in a stable place, you can keep moving forward as a level 3 school. I think a merger is an indication that you're trying to shake things up a little bit. I think to the other point of, starting with a high bar and lowering it versus starting with a lower bar and raising it.
Calibrating. I think that's what I like.
Calibrating it.
Yeah.
I think that if you start, I think we already know mergers are going to be rare. I think we've heard that from the experts. We've know it. I think more asked the question of like how many folks are talking about it. I think we already know it's going to be rare. If we start with that bar, we may not see any, and so we may still have the same level of information that we have today to go off of. And then I do believe that historically PCSB has raised the bar from a policy around expansions of just level 2 and on the PMF to a high level 2 on the PMF. So I think we also have a precedent for the other way around of calibrating upwards. So I think both are possible there.
Okay, I want to build on that, and then I know Leah, you want to jump in, and then I have about 6 other questions, so we'll keep it going. No, you're laughing because I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, public. Okay, so I want to build on that. You said something around mergers and understanding that at the point of a merger, it's going to be unstable anyway. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, I think it's a point of new ideation for what an organization can look like.
I think specifically when I think about our most historically disadvantaged students, I wouldn't want academics to be the thing that suffers. You already have back-end operations that you're going to have to figure out, which is fair, and that takes time. And so for me, what I'm thinking about is, okay, if I'm in a situation where I have 2 schools, one is a level 2, one is a level 3, at least within the context of this merger, level 2 has figured it out, right? And so I would imagine, I'm not a school leader and I don't know how they complete, well, I do a little bit, but I get it. I would imagine that at least academically, you could say, hey, for the next year, we're going to go by this playbook while we get our back end operations together and then move forward. Like I guess what I'm asking is, in all of the things within the context of a merger that schools are trying to figure out, I guess couldn't academics be the one piece that is solidly figured out while they do background the back end operations adjustments? Like that's the second piece that I'm thinking about, because to come in a situation where everything is in flux, the academics, back end operations, I don't see how that yields a strong result, and it still impacts the young people. So yeah, that's just a question, not just to you all, everybody jump in.
I think it's a really good point, Shakira, and I agree also, Jim, with your points about the the preponderance of evidence in public education and also in other sectors is that mediocre organizations that merge do not lead to excellence. So I just want to be really clear in supporting this policy shift. This is not something that I think would be common. I think this is about being open to proposals. And the reason why I'm open, particularly because of my concerns about quality, is because I think that in an era where enrollment is not going to grow the way it once did in DC, and that in certain neighborhoods enrollment is declining, schools are going to be under tremendous financial pressure. We already have some communities that are under tremendous financial pressure. And our current bar would not close a level 3 school. So to Michelle's point, I think schools could be sort of in the middle for a long time and not fully serving young people the way we want to see them really be served at a high bar for excellence. And so I want to be open to proposals where smaller LEAs that have less enrollment, but believe that combining could allow financial investments with quality. I want to hear those ideas. I think it should be very much the exception and not the rule that we are approving those, but I don't want to close the door to it in an era where I expect some level of financial instability and real challenges for schools and how they invest in quality. So that's what's motivating me in terms of how the connection between this shift in the policy proposal and how it might lead to greater quality. But I completely agree with your point that we'd have to hold a very high bar to believe that it would yield meaningful improvement in quality if the existing LEAs have been struggling.
Got you. Board Member Christie.
So first, thank you for this, Hannah. I'm really excited about the kind of coherence this is leading us toward as an agency and in service to the whole sector. By coherence, I mean this like clear relationship between this bar for quality that we are setting forth through the hard work we did to create Aspire, and then making sure that there's this relationship and a through line to these related policies. Jim, I think your point is really well taken, and it's one I'm going to continue reflecting on between now and this decision in June. I am also mindful that given the newness of Aspire's implementation and the implementation of these policies once we vote on them, I am curious about, and I think this is related to what Maura was just saying, that the kind of the comparative advantages, at least hypothetically, of two LEAs that just because they're both level 3, they maybe have gotten to level 3 in different ways. As we've gone through time and again, Aspire is a compendium of a whole bunch of different measures. And so I can imagine that there could be a universe where two LEAs look and I say, you're really good at this, I'm really good at that. Though both of those things could be different areas of academics. And it's not even just the back office stuff. The back office stuff starts to make a whole lot more sense when you think about that comparative advantage. We can go in together and get a better lease deal. We can go in together and have much more efficient back office. And you're really good at, when you think about departmentalizing in grades in schools too, sometimes it's better for teachers to really go deep on just CELA and someone else just go deep on math. We're designed, our authorizing law, had this vision for us to be able to foster that kind of creative thinking in service to a clear goal of improved learning outcomes. So I guess what I want to push at is level 3, maybe level 3 in a couple different ways. And we don't yet, since we haven't seen Aspire fully implemented yet, I just don't know yet that universe can't possibly happen. I think we do need to be responsive. We do need to be agile. And this board should continue to raise bars and adjust what that means. And we're talking about all of that with these thresholds. So there's lots of moving parts here is what I'm saying. And I think we should be open to setting this bar so that those LEAs who have their own boards, if they're exploring this, it means they're going through the process that they ought to be. If the concept of charters, if their boards are open to this idea of changing things up, then let's see what they come up with.
Okay. I hear you. I know. Okay. Everybody has a question. Okay. Okay. All right. And thank you all for wrestling with this with me. This is serious for me. Okay. Here's my thing. I hear what you're saying. To the staff, Is there any law prohibiting or any policy or anything prohibiting LEAs right now coming together and merging back-end operations? Yeah, like any, yeah.
Yeah, so if schools want to create economy of scales through partnerships, then yes, today they could do so. So for example, you could have an agreement between two LEAs right now in which you share like an operations person. Lots of partnerships exist today. I'd say like around like staffing and service provision, right? So thinking about all the related services a student may need, you could contract each with like the same service providers to, you know, spread those hours across different schools.
Did you have a response? Oh, because I have a follow-up.
Chair, I didn't have Hannah responded to your question, so I'll wait
Gotcha.
till you're done
Okay.
with your inquiry.
I can see you're trying to take me someplace with that question, so.
I'm okay. So right now, as of today, schools are able to come together and take care of that together through a partnership agreement. If we were to tweak the merger to allow the level 3, what's the added benefit of having that, as opposed to just keeping what we have now, schools getting together and do their own work?
This recalls for me the discussion we had at the roundtable about like that clear why, the rationale. And if we were to consider 2 level 3 schools merging, then the rationale has to extend beyond just economies of scale. And there has to be some evidence, data, a proposal. Well, that's really what the application would become, but something that would make you feel confident that outcomes could improve for students.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, Dr. Walker Davis.
I have a couple of thoughts about the several questions that you posed to the board and staff. So the one thing is, I know we are talking now about the one pathway, which is merger and the potential around level 3, but I want to acknowledge that this policy actually creates 3 pathways for combinations of schools. And it is in response to our authority, our sort of legislative authority to be able to do approve and support acquisitions of schools, and the recognition of this body that we did not have a set of criteria around that we all agreed on around how the board would receive recommendations from staff and ultimately approve it. So when I think about your questions, I am thinking about the fact that we have 3 pathways that are opportunities to solve whatever challenge we think is before us. And ultimately, any of those combinations is technically an acquisition. So I think we need to figure out what it is that we are using each of those pathways to accomplish. When I think about the notion of the conversation here, in our collective memory, we are used to an acquisition being something that is in response to failure, a school that is struggling, another school that is in a stronger position coming and taking over that school, and usually in a crisis moment. We have now created pathways where we do have a solve for an emergency acquisition. And I recall the robust conversation that we had that this is not just in response to the fact that a school did not pass our review or renewal criteria. There has to be a real emergency that we agree that we want to allow this particular school to continue. So that's one pathway. The second pathway, being the acquisition pathway, I think allows us to do much of what I'm hearing the board discuss. For me, when I think about the merger, we are naming that we want to see a combination of schools who have demonstrated, not just recently, but for a while, that they are high quality schools, and that we know going in that the combination of that school is going to be more likely to be a high quality combination. And I think about it similar to our new school application, where if we were receiving an application from an entity that was a previous operator, our standard for that previous operator is actually higher because we know more about how that previous operator has conducted themselves, and our threshold would be higher in approving that application. So I think about the merger as our highest guarantee of student outcomes having the potential to be high as we want them to be. And while I do not know all of the circumstances that folks would pursue this, I do think it will be very hard for any entity to take this on, which is why we gave such a long runway for considering this. And we heard that feedback from schools as well, that even after they consider all of our criteria around the application, there is the actual business of doing the merger, bringing two or more nonprofit organizations together. I can't anticipate all of the reasons, but I think you are more likely to see in the merger things like trying to create a feeder pattern, things like some sort of continuum of schools. Potentially, it might be thoughtful leadership transition of similarly programmed schools. And in all of those instances, from my mind, I would want to know going in that this is a school or set of schools that have a demonstrated track record of success that can create a continuum that is stronger, that can withstand a leadership transition because they have figured out some of those things. And so I set that aside and think about if we are trying to combine schools because of economies of scale, or we're trying to think about things, the acquisition pathway in my mind allows us to do that. And I think one of the tensions is that we are in a space where we've only thought about acquisitions as being negative or coming from a position of failure, whereas technically all of these are acquisitions, and the acquisition pathway allows level 3 schools to consider that. Obviously, one of them would still have to be stronger to acquire the school, but that is the entry point where you can start to consider what some sort of combinations there would be. Now, our standard right now does not allow a level 3 to acquire another level 3 school, but I do think it is the entry point for a conversation about what is happening here. And I would just put that out there, that we can think about changing the entry point, but we should be clear on what it is that we are trying to accomplish and what are the multiple pathways that we have right now that we didn't to accomplish that goal. Sure.
Dr. Walker Davis, thank you for that. What do you mean when you say they're all acquisitions? What does that mean?
Legally, the ability to combine the school and ensure enrollment is through the acquisition pathway. So at the end of the day, we will have one charter for whatever combination it is that we are doing, whether it is another school taking over a school in emergency, there is one remaining charter. If it is two schools coming together, even from a position of strength, there will be one charter, not two charters, or if it's multiple schools coming together, one school will hold the charter at the end of the day. So those entities will be acquired technically, and that will ensure the guaranteed enrollment of each of the entities that are in that combination.
So you know where I'm going with this.
I'm not sure, but I think so.
The merger distinction is just to allow for a different set of criteria.
Each of them offer a different set of criteria.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And
Okay.
and by design, we made the merger the highest one because we believe that two strong schools coming together to solve some different purpose is distinct from one school that is clearly struggling and another
Yes.
school coming in to take it over. And then similarly with the acquisition, the same, just not under emergency circumstances.
Okay. So can I just tell you my thinking on this? So it's interesting, right? If the idea is that the merger is to allow sort of two schools to come together, I do see the merit in hearing from schools that perhaps are both at a level 3, because maybe there's some innovation that they have identified or that they think that they're able to explore. I also appreciate Leah's point when we sort of open up Aspire and really start to talk about it and look at it, in that they can get to level 3s in very different ways, right? Like we've done a lot of conversation around that and how somebody arrives at a level 3. So with those two sort of data points in mind, I don't necessarily know that I agree that two level 3s don't have the potential for improving outcomes. I don't know that I'm there. I think that I would be open to wanting to see why they want to merge, and allowing them to tell that story. And then it's up to us to define or to determine whether or not the story is compelling, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And just to be clear, I didn't say that they couldn't. I think we have more of a demonstrated evidence that the two at higher levels have. Um, I I want to get back to something that Hannah said about our clarity of expectations. While I understand the points about allowing for that, like not creating exclusion at the beginning of the process, if we ultimately continue to hear from 2 level 3 schools and never approve any of them, I think that creates a dissonance for schools as well. And so we want to be very clear what our intentions are in our standard of approval. And I think that there are ways that we can create an application process that allows us to hear what those creative things are, but also clearly communicate to schools the likelihood of approval of those things. So I just want to make sure that we're not sending a message that, yes, come one, come all, but we know that we are not likely to approve applications that aren't strong.
Thank you, Dr. Walker Davis, for saying that, because I do think that that is important. And Treasurer Stanley Beatty, to your point, I am curious about, I mean, ultimately we exist as a sector because of innovation and because of our commitment to quality. And so I definitely want to respect that. And I definitely want to make sure that we create conditions to do that. I just, when I started this question, I really thought about our most at-risk, historically underserved population and the impacts that a poorly done merger could have on that community, thereby just continuing the issues and conditions that folks have been dealing with. And so I was glad to hear you say, Dr. Walker Davis, that there, we can allow and create space for creativity there. Hannah, could you answer this for me? In the policy, and if we haven't defined that, that's okay. Have we talked about what the role of the board with respect to approving those things yet? Like what? And pardon me if I've missed that. But what is it? How does it? What is board discretion with respect to the mergers piece?
And I'm guessing the way I'm interpreting your question is how the board applies the standard for approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that.
The standard of approval is ultimately, it represents that proposal's performance across a multi-stage review process. We are considering the written application. We are considering past performance, and we're considering the leadership capacities of those school leaders, their staff, their board members. It's holistic in that sense, and it's iterative as we pick up new information and evidence over time. The rub by changing the minimum eligibility criteria is we then would have to grapple with that level 3 performance further down the process. So you are creating less clarity upfront for that school community with the hopes that the plan that they would present to us and be able to expound upon would be able to demonstrate the proposal's ability to better serve their school communities. So there is a lot of discretion that the board is afforded in that process. It's ultimately a qualitative standard. The quantitative elements were supposed to be, what was kind of why we created this minimum eligibility criteria, this like quick up and down checklist. Do you do A, B, and C? Cool. Go forward with a more development in your plan, more engagement of your school communities. So that's just that would be the question we would need to grapple with. Ultimately, how do we consider this track record as we are also evaluating your plan for the future?
Got it. One last question before I turn it to board member Salmon for the final statement. To my colleagues on the board, Are there any other questions? Oh, I thought I heard. Okay. Are there any other questions or outstanding questions that you all have, that you think from the perspective of families who are listening tonight, community members, elected leaders? Are there any other questions that we haven't talked about, that if we were to wear their lens, they would be curious about? Any other questions? Yep.
I mean, I think it speaks to this discussion, which I think has been really productive. I'm wondering if school leaders would have questions about the use cases here. Like I think to Dr. Walker Davis's point, like programmatic mergers from a position of strength, I think are a particularly interesting aspect that this policy opens up. And so I'd want to understand, for example, like if we imagined what some of those programmatic mergers might be based on themes or feeder patterns or whatever academic program, what is our distribution of Aspire performance in those hypotheticals? And how does that help us make a decision on where to set the bar for mergers? I think that I think Chairwoman Adamathanian, I think your point about equity is really well taken. And so I'd want to understand, for example, if someone was trying to build a feeder pattern where 50% of the schools were level 1 and 2 and 50% were level 3, and that feeder pattern was going to create a K-12 pathway programmatically around a certain academic theme. If that was going to shut out students who live east of the river from accessing a level 1 and 2 high school, like that to me would be a compelling reason to allow for a 50-50 multi-LEA merger. I don't know that exists, so I don't want us to like change this policy because, you know, there was a vague concept that maybe there would be something outside of the lines. So anyway, your prompt just made me think, like, are there school leaders who are talking about this with each other who have that question? Are there ways that we could understand that better before we make a final decision in terms of the utility of the policy in different school types?
Point well taken. Anyone else? My big old questions. Anybody else? No? Very good. Board Member Sandman, you have the final comment / question, line of question, however you handle it. Go ahead.
I just want to make a point. I think we all agree that there are significant potential risks and pitfalls in allowing two level 3 schools to merge. What divides us is, well, how do we deal with that? How do we manage those risks? One alternative is to require that two level 3 schools can't merge. One of them has to be at least level 2. The other is to permit the application, but to scrutinize it rigorously, to have very high standards for the approval of a merger of two level 3 schools. I prefer the first alternative. I'd rather use the tools that we have as a charter authorizer to try to increase the number of level 2 schools so there are more eligible candidates to merge with a level 3 school. But I respect the opposing view. But this discussion, and particularly one of Chair Adamathanian's last questions and Hannah's answer, makes me think that if we're going to go that route, if we're going to have we're going to permit an application to merge between two level 3 schools, but have a very high standard, I think we need more specificity in our standards than the proposal currently has. I don't think we should just leave it to the board's discretion. I think we need some guardrails. Here's an example. I think one of the reasons that combinations of acceptable but unacceptable entities almost never yield a whole greater than the sum of its parts is because a significant component of the case for merger is economies of scale. The promise that the two entities will be able to function at lower cost and that the money that's freed up will be available to improve quality. I've never seen that happen. Every promise of economies of scale falls short of the promise once the combination goes through. So Hannah said, as I recall, that shouldn't be a reason. Well, that might be something that we want to state explicitly up front. I think we need to give applicants for mergers more guidance. If our goal is to have a rigorous standard, what does that mean? Saying it doesn't provide sufficient guidance to the community in knowing whether it's going to be worthwhile for them to go through the burden of the application process. So if that's the direction we're headed in, if that's where a majority of the board were to come out, to permit applications for mergers by 2 level 3 schools, but to have a high standard, I'd like to know more about what that high standard looks like and give clearer guidance to the community.
Thank you, Board Member Sandman. Thank you, Hannah, and again, thank you to the team. I just want to name this. Regardless of difference or the conversation, the back and forth, what's exciting to me is that we are really talking about how do we deliver on our promise to the communities and, quite frankly, the students, not just young people, but our adult charters as well, but the students who decide to take a chance with us in our sector. How do we deliver on the promise? And so I think where we land, I think we'll be better for it. But the conversation tonight has, y'all have given me more to think about on Saturday. But I look forward to, Hannah, the work you and the team will do to, again, those test cases, helping us figure out what that rigorous standard looks like. And thank you all. Thank you all to my colleagues for your questions and your indulging of my Saturday morning musings. All right. So with that, we will be voting, and just as a reminder to the public, just remember that we will be voting on these policies during our June meeting, not next month. All right. Okay. Right. Very good. We are now moving on to our public meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Letting up. Oh, second.
Very good. Secretary Marino, please conduct a roll call vote.
Chair Autumn.
Oh, aye. And I also have a proxy for Board Member Williams. He's an aye as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
Aye.
Board Member Sandman.
Aye.
And Chair, I'm an aye, so the motion carries.
Well done. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda, we have 3 schools up for review or renewal. I yield the floor to Gina Lucchese, manager in the School Performance Department, who will introduce each school. I also invite representatives from each school to provide remarks at your appointed time and to introduce yourselves. We will begin with Global Citizens Public Charter Schools.
Good evening. My name is Gina Lucchese. I'm a manager in the School Performance Department. Tonight, the board will vote on the charter review of Global Citizens Public Charter School and the charter renewals of Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter School and Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School. The following charter review standard applies to Global Citizens Public Charter School. The School Reform Act stipulates that DCPCSB shall review a school's charter at least once every 5 years. As part of this review, DCPCSB must determine whether the school failed to meet the goals and student academic achievement expectations set forth in its charter, and whether the school committed a material violation of applicable law or of its charter, including violations relating to the education of students with disabilities. If DCPCSB determines that a school has not met its goals or has committed a material violation of law or of its charter, the board may, at its discretion, revoke the school's charter or grant the school a conditional continuance. Additionally, there is a fiscal component to the charter review. Per the School Reform Act, the board is required to revoke a school's charter if it determines that the school has engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, or is no longer economically viable. Given the disruption in schooling and data collection during the COVID-19 pandemic and DCPCSB's development of the Aspire system, DCPCSB did not assess charter goal attainment for school years 2020-21 or 2021-22. Consequently, for this review period, DCPCSB staff assessed each school's charter goals performance using goal attainment pathways for school years 2022-23, 2023-24, and 2024-25, as outlined in DCPCSB's charter goals policy. Global Citizens Public Charter School is up for its 5-year review. The school educates 228 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 3 at a single campus located in Ward 7. Global Citizens Public Charter School adopted the Performance Management Framework, or PMF, as its charter goals. As mentioned earlier, DCPCSB staff assessed the school's charter goals performance using goal attainment pathways for school years 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25, as outlined in DCPCSB's charter goals policy. Global Citizens Public Charter School fully met its charter goals in school years 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. In school years 22-23 and 23-24, the school fully met the growth pathway by exceeding publisher growth criteria in both reading and math on its nationally normed growth assessment, Northwest Evaluation Association measures of academic progress. In school year 24-25, the school fully met the Aspire pathway by earning a level 3 or higher on the Aspire system. DCPCSB staff determined that the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter. DCPCSB staff also determined that the school has not engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to continue Global Citizens Public Charter Schools charter. School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 4 years and to answer the board's questions.
Thank you, Gina. Welcome to the Global Citizen School. Dr. Smith, if you would begin by introducing the members of your team, and then we'll turn it over to you for your presentation. Welcome to your team.
Thank you, Chair Adam Mafanian. I am so excited this evening to introduce our amazing team with us this evening. Tara Smalls, our board chair, Jennifer Moore, our founding principal, Sean Flora, our chief of staff, Chloe Jonas, our director of special populations, Autumn Tomlin, our facilities consultant with Rosewood, and Elizabeth Pillion, our school finance manager from EdOps. And I will jump right in. Good evening again, Chairperson Adam Afanian, DC Public Charter School board members, and staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of Global Citizens Public Charter School as we reflect on this important 5-year milestone. Over the last 5 years, Global Citizens has worked to turn a bold vision into a strong and growing reality for children and families east of the Anacostia River. Since opening in the 2021-2022 school year, we have grown from a founding pre-K3 and pre-K4 program to a school now serving pre-K3 through 3rd grade. Our enrollment has grown from 60 students in our first year to 228 students in the current school year. As one of only 2 dual language immersion public charter schools east of the river, we are proud that almost 75% of our students live in Ward 7 and 8. That matters because access to high quality dual language education should not depend on where a family lives. We are also especially proud that our new facility is just 13 to 15 minutes from our current location and will be even closer for many students and families in Ward 8. We are also proud of the outcomes this review affirms. Global Citizens met its charter goals in every year under assessment, remained in compliance with the law and its charter, and remains economically viable. In fiscal year 25, all 6 key financial indicators were above target, reflecting the overall financial health of the school and our commitment to responsible stewardship as we grow. And we remain on track for strong financial performance in fiscal year 26 as well. Our students exceeded publisher growth criteria in both reading and math on NWA measures of academic progress, we call it MAP. In 2022-2023 school year, the 23-24 school year, and again in the 24-25 school year, all 3 years that we've been assessed. And in 2024-25 school year, we earned a level 2 on Aspire, which is considered strong performance. Among our youngest learners, 100% of pre-K3 and pre-K4 students met or exceeded widely held expectations in literacy, and 96.5% did so in math. We have also built strong trust with families, including 100% satisfaction among family survey respondents on our end of year satisfaction survey across all 4 years, with at least 86% response rate. This is also our first year serving third grade, and we are excited for our students to demonstrate their knowledge and skills on the DC CAPE assessment as another important milestone in our school's growth. These accomplishments reflect not only academic progress, but also the strength of the community we have built together. At the same time, these first 5 years have not been without challenge. We launched and expanded during a period shaped by pandemic era disruption, changing accountability systems, and the real complexity of building a school while adding grades each year. So we have learned that a strong mission and promising growth must be matched by equally strong systems, especially when it comes to instructional consistency across classrooms. We appreciate that the report identifies areas where we need to improve, particularly in classroom quality, instructional support, and some proficiency trends, especially in early literacy. We take those findings seriously, and in several cases, they align with trends we had already identified internally. We also want to provide context that helps explain the data more fully. Our strongest academic story is one of growth. Students are making progress, and our dual language model is producing meaningful results. At the same time, some proficiency data reflects challenges we know we must address, including lost instructional time due to absenteeism and tardiness, a high number of new teachers in key classrooms, staffing transitions in a small number of classrooms, curriculum timing related to assessment windows, and significant foundational literacy needs of some students, including students with disabilities. In early childhood, our class and qualitative site review data also reflect the complexity of delivering a rigorous 90-10 immersion model while ensuring consistently strong classroom interactions, feedback, and higher order thinking. Those findings have not shaken our confidence in the model. They have sharpened our understanding of where our systems must become stronger. As we look ahead, we are approaching the next 5 years with both urgency and optimism. We are already making important shifts in response to what we have learned. We are strengthening coaching and observation cycles, tightening our lesson planning and lesson internalization, improving teachers' use of formative assessment, deepening our science of reading work, and expanding differentiated small group instruction and intervention. We have added key staff roles, including a reading specialist and a dean of school culture. And we are building stronger internal leadership capacity, including class certified instructional leaders, so that improvement is more precise, consistent, and sustainable. We have also seen improvement in classroom environment and instruction indicators through our internal teacher observations aligned to the Charlotte Danielson framework, the same framework used for our qualitative site reviews. In addition, based on our middle of the year data, our students are currently exceeding growth criteria in both reading and math on the NWA map, with 55% in reading and 65% in math. And the Empower K-12 predictability tool also indicates that we are currently on track to surpass DC CAPE target for ELA and math on Aspire. We are also continuing to strengthen family partnerships and attendance systems because students must be present to benefit from strong instruction. Our NC attendance is currently 92%. We are strengthening the foundation of our future growth as well. In February 2026, we came before this board regarding our facility amendment, and its approval during the second March board meeting was an important milestone in supporting our long-term growth and stability. Since then, we have continued planning proactively for the future through our long-term facility strategy and financing support so that our growth is matched by responsible financial planning. As we move forward, continued partnership with DC Public Charter School Board, strong accountability, and opportunities to learn from other high-performing schools and immersion programs will help us accelerate our progress. Our vision for the next 5 years is not simply growth in size, but growth in strength, coherence, and impact. We want Global Citizens to be a model of excellent, inclusive, globally focused public education serving students east of and near the Anacostia River, a school where students grow as bilingual scholars, joyful learners, and change makers, and where our systems fully match the ambition of our mission. We are proud of how far we've come, clear-eyed about the work ahead, and deeply hopeful about the future of Global Citizens Public Charter School. Thank you so much. We look forward to answering your questions this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. And again, congratulations for getting to this point. You all certainly, y'all traveled some waters to get here. Yeah, I know. But congratulations to you all. I want to turn it to Treasurer Stanley Beatty to start with some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Adamafania. I'll wait for you, Will. I'll wait for it's okay. Hi, Global Citizens team. I had I was stalling because I had a point of clarification on the memos, not related to you all, but to staff. So they're going to get that for me. I know we saw you guys in March,
Yes.
and remind me, I think I asked this question then, but remind me, I know you have the $600,000 loan that comes due in May. I can't remember if we talked about that in March. So that loan, is that related to your facilities or is that some other debt?
Thank you for asking that. That is related to our current facility.
Okay.
And we have since then, we closed with OSSI, and we have received a 2-year extension.
Okay.
It's about 575,000 left now.
Okay. Now, so I think we did talk about it in March. So
Yes.
you got the extension from OSSI, and
Yes.
so you no longer have that May maturity.
Yes. And so we closed
Perfect.
on our financing on April 7th.
Perfect. Okay. And then talk to me, how are you doing with your relocation? Have you secured your financing? I think when we spoke, you were just starting the process. Have you secured your financing? Where are you with that?
I'm so grateful to be able to share that. Yes, we have
Good.
a favorable facilities arrangement. We went to closing on April 7th for all of our financing. So let me just share that with you. So the total project budget for leasehold improvements is approximately about 3.5 million, and we are contributing about 200,000. Our landlord with tenant improvement allowance is contributing 975,000. And the remaining costs are supported by 2 facility loans. So 1.45 million from OSSI, and 950,000 from Level Field Facility Fund. And all of that, those closed on April 7th.
You closed on everything.
Yes.
Good for you.
Trying to mess up.
Yes, I'll say that's not difficult. That's not easy to do in this economy. So that's why I say good for you. When loans close, I celebrate. So that's amazing.
Yes.
And your timeline is still the same in terms of your relocation.
Yes. And
Okay.
so our timeline, we are right on timeline. We got approval for a demo permit on April 6th. Our MCN build is in there. The demo is almost done, 8% done. We are on track.
Perfect. That's it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? Because I have 2. Okay, there's no colleague? No. That was just me. All right. Jim, you okay? Any other questions there? Very good. All right, it's just me. Again, thank you to the team. Congratulations on the work that you all have done. Look, quick question for me. We are back here celebrating 10 years. What's the headline about what you all have been able to accomplish since this moment?
I love that question, Chair Adamafanian. In 10 years, we return for our 15-year charter renewal.
That's it?
We will be sharing a strong story of sustained impact and long-term student success. What I want to share is that we will have a fully mature dual language immersion program with strong outcomes in Mandarin, Spanish literacy, math, and whole child development. One of the biggest things is that in 10 years, our students will be we would have either expanded into middle school, our students will be in middle school, and they will be coming back. They will be sharing their story with our current students. So either we would have expanded into middle school or we would have partnered with middle school programs so that our students can continue their language learning. And we will make sure that they are prepared for not only success at Global Citizens, but in terms of the future. And so one thing I wanted to share is that we really do envision our alumni returning to partner with us, mentoring our younger students, speaking at events, serving as role models, and just that powerful full circle moment and clear reflection of the lasting impact of our school. So we see our story of, again, sustained impact and long-term success. We'll be talking about a school that's academically strong, financially sustainable, organizationally sound, deep rooted in community, and recognized as a model for excellent and equitable dual language education in Washington, D.C.
I'm excited about that. Now I'll be at home watching y'all do that, but I'll be wrapping this up. But I am excited to celebrate that with you all.
Thank you.
And actually, Dr. Smith, you got into what my next question was what would a young person who left your program say then? But I think you hit that. One final question, and then if my colleagues don't have any other questions, we'll go to a vote. So you all are adding one grade level per year until reaching grade 5 in 27, 28. What challenges have you encountered? We've heard a lot over the last few months about enrollment and declining student population, et cetera. What challenges have you all encountered as your school has continued to grow? And how are you going to ensure, as your school grows, that it continues to demonstrate the strong academic outcomes for students? And then that's my last question.
Thank you. We appreciate the questions. Thank you, Chair Adam Afani. And we, as you know, just like you said, we have grown intentionally. We did that on purpose by adding one grade each year. And that has taught us that growth has to be planned for very strategically. We are not simply just adding students or classrooms each year, but we're building the staffing, instructional, operational, facility systems needed to support a school that is growing toward full enrollment. One major lesson is that we have had to plan early. That includes hiring early, thinking carefully about retention and staff placement, preparing for new grade level expectations, and making sure our academic model continues to meet the needs of students as they move into higher grades. We know that we have learned and know that backfilling seats requires intentional planning. Because we accept students at every grade level, we know that students may enter with different academic needs, different levels of exposure to dual language instruction, and different social emotional needs. That has pushed us to be even more thoughtful about academic planning, intervention, school culture, and family support. We have also learned that facilities planning had to begin early. We started, that process over almost 4 years ago because we knew where we wanted to be located, and we knew that adding a grade would require the right long-term space to sustain the program. And the overall adding a grade each year has reinforced the importance of planning ahead while remaining responsive to the students and families we currently serve. And so I also want to also turn it over to our amazing principal, Jennifer Moore, our founding principal. She's going to share more about how the lessons have shaped our instructional planning specifically, and staffing and school culture and student support systems, if I may add somebody else besides my voice.
Please, by all means.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for giving us time this evening. I would just add a little bit about these lessons of growing up. I think being really intentional about planning for school culture as a school that accepts students in every grade, this it really forces us to plan for what it looks like to integrate great students into our program, both academically and socially. So that looks like building intervention blocks that support our students who are new to language, and also creating social opportunities for our students to become a part of our community and also add socially to who we are as a school. The other thing that I would add is making sure that as a school that grows up each year, we're always thinking about those new milestones. Right now, our oldest students are third graders. And if you're an educator, you know that there are some characteristics and milestones to third grade as it relates to friendship and their opinions about things. And we continue to learn that as we grow up. We're getting into fourth grade next year. And so we have to think about the impacts of puberty socially, as well as what it looks like for brain development. And so that impacts both our academic and social programs. And so these are lessons that we're learning and we're building on to make sure that we're prepared to support the whole child. As you know, that is a part of our vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final call, colleagues. All right. Colleagues, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to continue the charter of Global Citizens Public Charter School.
Second.
Oh, okay. Secretary Marino, please conduct a roll call vote.
Chair Adamafanian.
I am an enthusiastic, I can't wait to celebrate I. And my colleague, I know, right? And my colleague, Tony Williams, is an I as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
Congratulations. Aye.
Board Member Sandman.
Aye.
And I am also an enthusiastic aye. The motion carries. Congratulations.
Woo!
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your incredible work. Thank you all for your innovation. Thank you all for your commitment to quality. You have delivered for young people, and we look forward to you all continuing to do that. So y'all rest easy. Y'all
Thank
take
you so
care.
much.
Got more work ahead. Thank you. All right. Very good. Next, we invite the inspired. Oh, I got it. Oh, okay. We invite the inspired teaching team. Okay. And Dr. Riggins, if you could introduce your team once everybody is there. Oh, I'm sorry, Gina. Sorry. I will now turn it over to Gina to present the school.
Thank you, Chair Admopanian. I will now introduce the Charter Renewal Standard, which applies to Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter School and Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School. The standard for charter renewal is established in the School Reform Act. DCPCSB shall approve a school's renewal application, except that DCPCSB shall not approve the application if it determines one or both of the following. Number one, the school committed a material violation of applicable laws or a material violation of the conditions, terms, standards, or procedures set forth in its charter, including violations relating to the education of students with disabilities. Or number two, the school failed to meet the goals and student academic achievement expectations set forth in its charter. Additionally, there's a fiscal component to the charter renewal. Per the School Reform Act, the board is required to revoke a school's charter if it determines that the school has engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, or is no longer economically viable. Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter School is up for its 15-year charter renewal. The school educates 527 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 8 at a single campus located in Ward 5. Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter School adopted the PMF as its charter goals. As mentioned earlier, DCPCSB staff assess the school's charter goals performance using goal attainment pathways for school years 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25 as outlined in DCPCSB's charter goals policy. Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter School fully met its charter goals in school years 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. In school years 22-23 and 23-24, the school fully met the transitional goals pathway by exceeding state performance on all 7 transitional goals measures. In school year 24-25, the school fully met the Aspire pathway by earning a level 3 or higher on the Aspire system. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter. DCPCSB staff also determined that the school has not engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to renew Inspired Teaching Demonstration Public Charter Schools Charter. School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
Thank you so much, Gina. Welcome to the Inspired teaching team. I was eager when I asked y'all to jump in there. So we are now at the point where, please, Dr. Riggins, if you could introduce your team and then jump right into your presentation.
All right, thank you. I am joined this evening by Michelle Lerner, board chair, Kate Keplinger, founder slash chief operating officer, Mary Pitts, board vice chair, Dr. Marunji M. McCraw, principal, Shanna Wang, board treasurer, and Sarah Brown, school finance manager from EdOps. All right. Good evening, Chair Adamafanian and members of the DC Public Charter School Board. My name is Dr. Sunday Riggins, and I am the Executive Director of Inspired Teaching Demonstration School. First, I would like to express gratitude for the board, Dr. Walker Davis, and PCSB staff. Preparing for our renewal was an extremely helpful, reflective, and introspective process for us all. The new Aspire framework highlights our strengths and growth areas, and we are excited by the opportunity to continue to get better and better each year. Inspire Teaching Demonstration School was founded in 2011 by a group convened by the Center for Inspired Teaching, a DC-based nonprofit organization. Inspired Teaching is rooted in a belief that every student possesses the ability to be an accomplished learner, thoughtful citizen, and an imaginative and inquisitive problem solver. Professional development, teacher mentoring, teacher residency, and teacher certification programs have all been a core part of Inspired Teaching Demonstration School's work to build teacher capacity and, in doing so, to transform the school experience for all children. As I reflect on ITDS and its accomplishments, I am proud to lead one of the most sought-after schools in the city. Our students have consistently exceeded the performance averages of both DC public schools and the public charter school sector in English language arts and mathematics across grades 3 through 8. We were one of 8 schools highlighted by PCSB for performing in the top 20% of the sector for ELA and math. Our graduates attend highly selective high schools across the city, and our students are fully invested in being good citizens and members of their community, whether they are testifying before DC Council, marching in the Pride Parade, advocating for our school to begin composting, which we do now, or learning how to be activists during Black Lives Matter Week of Action. They exemplify our mission in practice. We believe in being a whole child-centered community. We believe in being diverse by design, and we have a shared and unwavering commitment to the success of all students. When we say all, we mean all. While we are proud overall of the success of our students, we also take seriously when we have fallen short. Growth and progress for all of our students, especially our students receiving special education services, as well as our multilingual learners. In the spring of 2024, we made that commitment public and clear in our Inspired Roadmap, our strategic plan for school years 2023-24 to 2028-29. As outlined in that plan, our goal, Elevate Achievement to Close Gaps, states that we will ensure all students, especially students who are racially marginalized and students with disabilities, can achieve at or above grade level and leave ITDS prepared to excel in high school. To reach this goal, we are focusing on investing in leadership and especially teacher leadership, customizing professional learning for all our educators, codifying our systems, and building a strong data culture. One of our founding principles is that we take kids seriously, and we are committed to being clear about what that means in practice. We are focused on ensuring that every teacher, from novice to veteran, understands how we support students at all learning levels. This will allow our progress to remain steady and constant. I will share a few concrete examples of what we are doing to reach our goals. We've shifted our staffing model so that we have one special education teacher per grade level team. This ensures that the special education teacher and grade level teachers can co-plan.
Dr. Riggins, I'm sorry. You're cutting in and out.
Oh, uh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
School
Oh,
Wi-Fi, I don't
I think
know.
it's us.
Is it?
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Dr. Riggins. Continue.
that's okay. This ensures that the special education teacher and grade level teachers can co-plan, co-teach, and together be deeply familiar with the standards, expectations, and curricula for their respective grade level. We are in our second year of a multi-year partnership with the DC Special Education Cooperative, focused on supporting our teaching teams with universal design for learning strategies and differentiated instructional practices that meet the data-specified needs of our students. When we look at our subgroup data, including the year-to-year access performance of our multilingual learners, we've seen some inconsistencies and fluctuation over time. We have added a Director of Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, MTSS, position to our team in order to ensure that we have tight structures and systems for monitoring key indicators of student success. We want to ensure that growth is steady for all students in all subgroups and to proactively continue to address gaps in real time. In reflecting on our challenges and low rates of special education compliance, we recognize the impact of department turnover on student outcomes and achievement. For 2 consecutive years of the review period, school year 2021-22 and school year 2022-23, we experienced high turnover in our special education leadership. This significantly impacted our ability to ensure that our evaluations and services were rendered in a timely manner. As a former founding principal myself, I've reflected on what it takes to sustain a single campus school that from its inception has heavily relied on a small group of dedicated teachers and leaders to keep things running smoothly and moving in the right direction. When it goes well, it leads to students getting what they need. When it doesn't and there's no clear succession plan, the result is often mixed outcomes, insufficient support, and stunted student growth. We now have stable special education leadership and a cohesive support staff model to ensure improved compliance and strong systems to keep the work moving forward. With stable school leadership, we've been able to focus on supporting and developing the practice of our teachers. From resident teachers to mentor teachers, we've created an ecosystem of teachers who lead other teachers. A large majority of our teachers have grown with us over time. They know our systems, structures, and students. In order to increase and amplify our impact, we've narrowed our Tier 1 focus to 3 areas: school-wide data literacy, data-informed practices, and student-engaged assessment. As a result, we are beginning to see progress in many growth areas. I'm proud to share that we are already seeing results. In special education, our NWA mathematics median achievement percentile has improved for students with disabilities from the 14th percentile at end of year 2022-23 to the 38th percentile in winter 2025-26. Our NWEA MAP reading median achievement percentile has improved for students with disabilities from the 11th percentile at end of year 2022-23 to the 37th percentile in winter of 2025-26. In comparison to our consistent, strong performance in ELA, math has always been our growth area. Over the course of this review period, we've made a number of strategic investments to strengthen our math program. During school year 2023-24, we shifted to Algebra 1 for all in 8th grade, and we continue to see growth in students' middle school math skills. We've made investments in a variety of rigorous and engaging math interventions and curricula. During the 2022-23 school year, we were awarded the High Quality Instructional Materials Grant from OSSI, which funded Math 180, Do the Math, Math Recovery, and Dreambox. In addition, we were able to purchase a variety of manipulatives and supplemental instructional materials. During this current school year, we were awarded an Empower K-12 math grant, which has provided us with the opportunity to send some of our math teachers to Trinity University to earn a professional certificate in teaching mathematics. We've also started to offer a geometry lab for accelerated students and have invested in adaptive math programs that meet all of our students at their learning levels of readiness. In conclusion, we have so much to be proud of. Out of 282 member schools across the nation, we were recently selected as the 2026 Member of the Year school by the Diverse Charter School Coalition. Last March, we completed a renovation of our ground floor that has provided extra classroom space for our arts, language, and movement teachers, additional multi-purpose spaces for professional learning and student activities, and dedicated collaborative spaces for our staff. Our careful budgeting and stewardship of our finances allowed us to complete this significant renovation without taking on additional debt. Lastly, our Aspire rating designates us as a level 2 school with strong performance. We aspire, no pun intended, to be a level 1 school with exemplary performance, not because it is the highest Aspire rating, but because it is what we believe our students and families deserve. It is what our founders envisioned this school to be, and we follow in the footsteps of those who came before us, carrying a charge to disrupt the status quo, to not rest on our laurels, and as the incomparable Chris Emdens recently stated at a conference, to not let mediocrity persist. As I shared earlier, when I say all, we mean all students, and we won't be satisfied until all of our students, as our mission states, achieve their full potential. Thank you for your time, and we are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Riggins. Okay, so we will go in this order. Treasurer Stanley Beatty, followed by Secretary Marino, and then I have a couple of questions.
Thank you, Chair Adamafania. Dr. Riggins, I just have one question for you, and I want to start by just making a note for public record. I saw that you all had some reclassifications in your 2025 audit. I'm not concerned about it because your financial health is still there, but I just wanted to note that the classifications were fairly substantial and that they impacted your reflection of liquidity. So I just wanted to say that. If you want to speak to it, you can, in terms of what happened with the audit, but I'm not requiring you to.
Okay.
Okay. My question is around your loan that matures in April. What are your plans for that? Are you working on an extension? Are you going to do debt retiring? What are your plans around your facility that matures in April?
Okay, I'm going to pass that question over to Kate Kaplinger, our Chief Operating Officer, and also Shanna Wang, our Board Treasurer.
Sure. Thank you for that question. We have paid off that loan. Part of our cash reserve plan and spending down plan was to pay that off. So that went out the door about 2 weeks ago. So that is off our books.
Good for you. I
Yeah.
have no other questions.
Well, great.
Good for you.
Dr. Riggins, thank you so much, both for the thoughtful proposal and for your presentation tonight. And
Thank you.
Congratulations to you and your board and your team on a number of accomplishments that the staff report and your presentation outlined in terms of your ELA performance, your strong enrollment, your strong financials, and support from your community to continue the charter. I did want to zero in on special education, which was an area that you identified in your roadmap as needing to be improved, and which the staff also called out. And in particular, in OSSE's assessment, your overall score and your student progress score declined significantly over this review period, and your compliance domain was in the lowest 25% for the sector. And as you spoke to, a component of the challenges around compliance was on timely completion. And in 2023, only 6 of the 17 required evaluations were completed on time. So you spoke to some of this in your presentation, but also that was at the part where we lost you for a little bit. So feel free to repeat, because I want to make sure that we fully get to understand the work that your team is doing to change outcomes for special education students. So can you speak to, first of all, what your on-time reevaluation rate is today?
The on-time reevaluation rate today, I don't have it with me as like a number. I could get back to you on that. I will say that one of the reasons why it declined over time is because we had pretty much like a 100% turnover of SPED leadership. It sounds really bad, but when you have a super small school team, if one person leaves and then they come and they sort of pass the baton to another person, and then that person leaves, it's like you're sort of left with a space where you're just navigating a like huge leadership transition, and without sort of the onboarding of another person, it's like everyone's trying to like pick up, which sort of significantly contributed to us not being in compliance. And that happened over 2 consecutive years of the review period. So since then, we have added additional teachers because we also didn't have enough special education teachers. It is a hard to staff area. And when you coupled with not having the SPED leadership, it's sort of like you don't have the leadership, you don't have the teachers, and then everyone is sort of trying to, like pick up the pieces and struggle. And since then, we have had stable leadership, but then also trying to right size the model and think about the needs of the kids and how many people we actually need to have in compliance. So at this point, we are now finally catching up and not in a place where you're going to see that in the next, for example, the next SEPA report, our numbers will be changing because we already are seeing growth in our student outcomes as well as the compliance, because now we have the people in place to actually like have our SPED compliance numbers where they need to be.
And can you speak a little bit more to outcomes? I heard you reference some MAP data, but I was missing some of the context on whether that was MAP growth data or specifically what you were speaking to. I think you said 14% of your special education students started the year and then it went to 38%, but I wasn't sure if that was an absolute attainment or that was a growth goal. So can you just walk me back through that data?
That was the median achievement percentile. So that
Okay.
was just, yeah, that was so I tried to do the whole review period just to show like growth over time. With the most growth happening for our students with disabilities in this calendar year. So currently, although this is technically not the review period because it's right now,
Yeah,
I
right.
wanted to make sure I was able to name that and say that we started at 14% in school year 2022-23, and now we're at the 38th percentile. That was in MOY because we haven't done EOY testing yet because we're doing the last round of DC CAPE. But I wanted to include our progress from the beginning of this year to the middle of this year, which is the winter map testing, just to show that we are making growth over time since the data from that last SEPA report and the previous school year showed a decline.
And what's your goal on that indicator?
Well, the goal on this indicator ultimately is by the end of the strategic planning, the plan, we are reducing our level 1 students by 50%, and then we are increasing level 4 and 5 to like about the 67th, 70th percentile.
So you're saying 70, no, say it again, 70% of your kids.
That is our overall goal for achievement, to reduce the level 1s and increase. It's going to change once we go to smarter balance because we sort of need to figure out what that metric would be. So we're in sort of like a little bit of a holding period, but the way we sort of broke it down is that we would need to be making about 7 percentage points of growth in math and about the same in ELA from year to year in order to get to the goal of being able to be in the 70th percentile by the end. But that will change once we have smarter balance. I don't know if it's going to be, doesn't seem like it's going to be quite the same. But what is hopeful about it is that according to what I know about smarter balance so far, it mirrors MAP in a lot of ways because it's supposed to be adaptive. So that I feel optimistic that while the ultimate final measure is changing, the measure that we have right now, MAP, is going to be aligned, so we won't be changing. So it feels like reliable data to be able to speak to, even though we'll be changing to a new assessment in the future.
Yeah, I know the new assessment really complicates that kind of planning, but what you're describing makes sense. Is that goal specific to your special education students?
It's not specific to our special education students. It's specific to our whole school, but we are looking to see what we want to see is that we want to see that kids are growing over time at the rate of their peers. So we didn't do a specific goal. It was just the reduction of the number of students who are furthest from opportunity, knowing that that's not going to happen over time. So, like I said, when looking at our DC Cape data, one would want to see over time that a student is moving, like, for example, from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 over time. That's different for each group of students, but we want to see that drastically reduced by 50%.
And how do you know right now if the roadmap work that you're implementing is working for your special education students?
We can see the growth from where we started, even though we had a decrease. All of our indicators are higher than they've been in the past few years, even honestly pre-pandemic. So the growth that we're seeing from the beginning of this year, even to middle of the year, we want to see that continue. We have stable leadership. We have teachers at every grade level so that they're able to plan. So the issue with it was SPED compliance, so that's SPED leadership, and then that's also special education staffing. But while we were in a better place, our student needs have changed over time, post-pandemic, coupled with not having, when you have new teachers and you have them working with students across various different grade levels, it's really hard for them to get really good at what they are doing and how they were supporting students in grade level bands. So that shift of moving teachers to say that you're going to work with the first grade teacher team and you're going to get really good with the standards and then you're going to differentiate versus sort of being spread across the school. While that worked for a certain amount of time, the churn of special education leadership and teachers, we needed to sort of reset and have a better model for being able to sustain. And also, if you by chance have a teacher leave, if that is a teacher that is just assigned to first grade, it's a different level of replacing and being able to support students if you have somebody that's already a second or third. So if you do have someone who leaves and you need to fill a vacancy, you're now able to say, okay, well, you can work with first and second. But when people are spread really thin, it's really hard to do that, and it has a significant impact. So, and the teachers that we have in our special education department, some of them were lead teachers and moved over to special education. So they have been teachers for 5 years, 7 years, and that's very different from when I got here, when we were also like training up new teachers, because that's a part of our school's mission. And so it's sort of like when you're trying to train a teacher and teach them about how to be a teacher, coupled with layering on top of special education, like how to meet the needs of kids, how to differentiate, how to be in compliance, how to write IEPs. Like that was a huge learning curve for them. So in our design and thinking about how we get this right and how we right size our staffing in order to meet the needs of students, we figured that we wanted to narrow their focus so that they could really be able to see they could learn and also support students at the same time. And that is a part of what we have been doing over the past few years of making sure that if we're already planning for attrition if it happens in mind, so that we don't have these gaps and we don't have students not getting the supports and the services that they are supposed to have.
Thank you. I really appreciate the intentionality of the work that you're doing to strengthen your performance. And it sounds like the stability in leadership, the change in the staffing model, allowing some of your experienced teachers to be focused on special education students and having more experienced teachers who have hopefully a stronger set of overall skills working with your special education students. It all sounds really encouraging. And I would encourage you to just bring that level of intensity to your data work as well with special education students, so you know whether those kinds of changes are yielding what you need to see to meet the really ambitious targets in your roadmap. But thank you so much, Dr. Riggins. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just a couple questions here.
Sure.
To Chair Lerner, would love to kind of hear from you. While I understand you weren't chair for the last 15 years, unless you were, and then I'm sorry.
Years.
When you think about when you think about under your leadership, but then just looking at the board governance over the last 15 years, period, what would you say that the board should be most proud of in terms of their support of the school and governance? Yeah, I'm just curious. Like,
Yeah,
what do you all
absolutely.
think contributes to some of the successes? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say our board started out as a founding school board, so the board members would roll up their sleeves and solve each and every issue that popped up. Now that we are here at our 15-year renewal, we are not a startup anymore. And so what I'm really proud of the board today is that we like to say we're noses in, but hands out. We do not run the school. We leave that with Dr. Riggins and her fabulous team. We need to know what's going on. We need to set the strategic priorities and make sure the school is meeting those, but we are not here to fix the HVAC system, which is running fine, and other issues that might pop up. We have our inspired roadmap, as Dr. Riggins has mentioned many times, and a huge focus of that is us being aware of our academic progress. So we meet 6 times a year, plus a retreat. We look at the same data each and every time so that folks, even if they do not work in education, as many of our board members do not, understand what it is we are talking about. And we are deeply aware of what our level 1 students are doing, our students broken out by racial and ethnic group, by grade, and by other reporting groups that we report on for both DC Cape and MAP. We also care deeply about our budget. I'm really proud that ITDS has always been in a very strong financial place. We plan to continue to be in a strong financial place in perpetuity. And that is because we have really strong leadership at the school, but also a finance committee that works to make sure that the school is making all of its benchmarks. And our work in the last 2 years has been bringing up the finance piece up to the full board level so that so that the school can make financial decisions that will lead to academic gains. The budget is part of our strategy.
Thank you for that. And well done. I think I'm going to walk away with we are nose in, not hands on. Is that it?
Or we
I get
say
that?
noses in, hands out.
Oh, okay. Nose in, hands out. That's a t-shirt. But what I really hear in your explanation is a maturity of around your governance, and just really getting clear about what it is that the school needs to push forward. And so I thank you for that, and I thank you for walking through that.
Yeah,
Dr. Riggins, my last question, I'm gonna combine two so we can move y'all on. But much like other folks who've gone through this process, I asked the question, we're back here in another 15 years, so this time we're celebrating 30 years. And would love to hear from you what the headline is around what Inspired Teaching has been able to accomplish. And if you could weave in there, you all have had some great success around ELA and math, and there's some learnings that I believe the sector could benefit from. So somewhere in your answer, if you could weave in some of those learnings so that we can get that on record for our other LEAs who are interested in how they grow as well. But seriously, the question really is about what are we celebrating at the 30th year? What's the headline?
Well, headline, I would say that we are celebrating a level 1 school, unless there's some other Aspire 2.0 or something that comes up, but we will
Likely.
we will be a level 1 school that has significantly closed the achievement gap, and just a place as we are now where kids are thriving, they're achieving their full potential. It would be my hope that we would be a school that is well known in the district as a place to learn from. So our namesake demonstration is about practice being public and not perfect. So a place where people can come, we can learn from others, they can learn from us. We do that now, but we really like to see that sort of embedded in the educational ecosystem in DC more broadly, so people that know us for that. And by that time, and speaking of teachers, we should have a few teachers who were once our students. I'm working on one right now who is aspiring to be a teacher. She comes and volunteers. She works over the summer. So we hope to have a handful of full-time teachers that were once our students as that sort of like full circle moment. And I would just also say that keeping our students and families connected. I was just talking to our chief operating officer about There's a family group that there is a student, a former student that is graduating from high school and they're going to college, and they are doing this sort of grassroots effort to or have a reunion and connect. And so they reached back out to us to get some of the contact information of former students so that they could all meet up. And so it really humbles and just inspires us to know that there are students who spent so much time here from pre-K 3 to eighth grade, and we're still top of mind for them, and they still made like lasting connections and friendships and things like that. That's definitely something that we want to continue. Um, I would say the push is like something to learn from us. Like I said, is that practice is public and it's not perfect. So just leaning into that part of our mission where, like, if we don't get something right, we're willing to come back to the table, think through it, talk about it, share. For all of the areas that we are doing well, we know we have areas to grow, and how we grow and get better is to be able to be reflective practitioners and to see failure or challenges as feedback. And I think that's something that we model really well, especially in the ELA space. We've always been much stronger at ELA than math. And so math has been an area that we have continued to try to grow. And I think that we have continued to sort of like figure out through our projects and activities and things, how do we push kids? We have kids that just have a genuine like excitement and love for reading in our community. So you can hear in the hallways, you hear kids talking about like plot changes in books, and someone's like, I didn't read it, but I read it, but don't tell me, similar to like TV spoilers. There's like book spoilers and things in the hallway. And so it's just a fun, really organic community. And I think that we have a lot to share. We call our educators our secret sauce. And so when I think about how we want to be able to like share best practices in our community, my simple thing is that our door is open. There's lots of things that we are doing well. We adopted Wit and Wisdom, and that's going great. And there's a lot of things we're still learning and growing. And I hope that in the next 30 years, we'll be able to probably give a list of maybe 5 to 7 things that like anybody could come in our school and like pick up resources, materials, tools, and we could be a model for. And we're working on it. We'll get there. In 15 years, we should definitely be there and fully living our demonstration namesake.
Thank you so much, Dr. Riggins. Colleagues, if there are no other questions, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to renew the charter of Inspired Teaching Public Charter School.
Second.
Secretary Marino, please conduct a roll call vote.
Chair Adamafanian.
I am an aye, as well as my colleague, Board Member Williams is an aye as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
Congratulations. Aye.
Board Member Sandman.
Congratulations. Aye.
And I am also an aye. Congratulations to the team. The motion carries.
Woo! Congratulations, Inspired Teaching Team. Thank you for all that you've done. Just really quickly, I'll say this. Oftentimes in education, when you see schools who do well, people like to call it a miracle. That's not what's happening here. You all have been intentional, and it shows. Please keep that up. Our children deserve it. The new teachers that are going to funnel through your school deserve it. So thank you. And look forward to, again, celebrating you watching on TV or internet for your 30 year. All right. Y'all take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. We will now move to Gina. In just a moment, we'll talk about Mundo Verde. However, Treasurer Stanley Beatty is now recused from this conversation. She will step away from the meeting, and a member of staff will ask her to return when the vote is complete. Thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, she has now left the room. Gina, if you could introduce us to Mundo Verde.
Absolutely. Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School is up for its 15-year charter renewal. The school educates 1,213 students in grades pre-kindergarten 3 through 5 at 2 campuses located in Ward 5. Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School adopted individually negotiated charter goals. Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School's Calle Ocho campus fully met its charter goals in school years 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter School's J.F. Cook campus substantially met its charter goals in school years 22-23 and 23-24, and fully met its charter goals in school year 24-25. DCPCSB staff determined the school has not committed a material violation of law or of its charter. DCPCSB staff also determined that the school has not engaged in a pattern of non-adherence to generally accepted accounting principles, has not engaged in a pattern of fiscal mismanagement, and is economically viable. Based on these findings, DCPCSB staff recommends that the board vote to renew Mundo Verde Bilingual Public Charter Schools charter. School representatives are available to speak about the school's performance over the past 5 years and to answer the board's questions.
Thank you so much, Gina. Welcome to the Mundo Verde team.
Thank you.
Yep, Shalane, if you can introduce your team, please.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Shalini Shibet, Executive Director. I have with me today from my team our Chief Academic Officer, Katie Lundgren, my Chief of Finance and Operations, Maria Jose Carrasco, our Interim Senior Director of Strategy and Impact, Caitlin Campbell-Hahn, and our Senior Director of Data and Academics, Rodrigo Salgado. I have with me from my board, Ed Pauls, who is the president of our board, and Rashida Young, who is the chair of our academic committee. And I am very grateful to you all for being here this evening. Good evening, Chair and members of the DC Public Charter School Board. We are grateful for this opportunity to reflect on our impact. As you've heard tonight, Mundo Verde is a very special place. I came to Mundo Verde as a parent 7 years ago and am proud to serve as executive director since last year. 15 years after its founding, our community attests that our mission and model endure. Our families and staff believe in the power of students becoming good stewards of the earth and their community, that speaking two languages is a powerful asset for interconnectedness, and that students learn best and most joyfully when they have real-life, hands-on experiences. I also know firsthand that having an environment where children feel loved by their teachers is why many families choose us. We are proud of our evolution as an organization over the review period. Families continue to choose us. We grew from 955 to 1,213 students over the review period, with demand increasing, reflecting trust with our families and rebuilt trust with our PTOs. Today, we are the 9th largest LEA in DC, with students from all 8 wards and no racial majority. We are proud of our academic progress. Calle Ocho was one of 4 charters in the city to see double-digit gains in CAPE proficiency in both ELA and math. It ranks as the 4th highest performing charter elementary for ELA and 2nd for math. Our JF Cook campus also saw growth, and both campuses are above the citywide average for elementary school. We have also strengthened our organization. We retain over 80% of our teachers, many of whom have grown with us, and we have significantly strengthened the relationship with our union. We have also completed our last facility and improved our finances with a forecasted FAR score of 92 this year. This is despite unprecedented disruptions for Mundo Verde during this time, from COVID-19 to leadership transition, most notably of our founder, senior leaders, and much of our board. Our JF Cook campus also experienced very public rifts between the school and the community. However, our work to strengthen trust with our community and rebuild our leadership team and board, as well as to retain key longtime staff, sets us up to further deliver on Mundo Verde's mission in the next 15 years. We have been honest with our community about the work ahead. We must do more to ensure every student, regardless of their campus, identity, family income level, or learning needs, receives a high-quality education. This is in our mission. Both our own reflection and the renewal report identify that this is not yet true. We believe our recent strategic plan, which was developed with our community and focuses on academic improvement, will get us there, and the ambitious goals we have set for the success of all students. We are already seeing improved student outcomes in the first year of our plan. Mid-year MAP data, as many other schools referenced, shows both campuses are further above the norm than at the same point last year, and faster growth for some of our subgroups, including students with IEPs at Cayocho. We hope to see even more next year as we adopt an evidence-based biliteracy curriculum to better support all students in the general education classroom and implement systems such as MTSS and staffing specifically focused on improving academic outcomes for our students with IEPs, multilingual learners, and our students who are economically disadvantaged. The renewal report calls out our special education compliance, which we take very seriously. We are proud to share that we have improved over the review period from 32% timeliness of initial evaluations in our 2022 CPER to 85% in our 2024 CPER data that we received from OSSE, and from 38% to 85% parent satisfaction in that 2024 CPER data. But we believe compliance is the floor. We are even more excited to see early performance improvement. During the review period, our CAPE 3+ proficiency in math for students with disabilities doubled from 15 to 33%. And we are excited to see what happens when we double down next year on best practices for serving all students. We believe these practices, as well as our work on building a strong sense of belonging across our community, will benefit students beyond our students with disabilities who are not currently being served by our model. We know we have room to grow, but we are confident that we have the right plan, team, and community support to get there. A la comunidad de Mundo Verde, estoy sumamente agradecida por su apoyo y por haber permanecido con nosotros a través de tantos cambios. No estaríamos aquí sin ustedes. To the Mundo Verde community, I am so very grateful for your support and for sticking with us through tremendous change. We would not be here without you. To the board, we are grateful to be here tonight, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Mundo Verde team. We'll start with Secretary Marino.
Shalini, thank you so much for the thoughtful presentation and the engagement throughout the process. And similar to what I shared a few minutes ago with the Inspired Teaching team, I think there is a tremendous amount to celebrate in this report. I think you highlighted some of that in your opening remarks, but certainly a period in Mundo Verde's history of tremendous challenges, tremendous change, and I think you outlined and the staff outlined in the report the work you've done to rebuild trust with families, to strengthen your team, and to strengthen ultimately academic results and outcomes across this period. So I don't want to minimize any of that, and I do want to zero in on special education. And you already answered my first question, which was around on-time evaluations, going from in fiscal year 2021, only 12 of 33 students being evaluated on time. That decreased to 31% in fiscal year 2022, with only 19 of 60 evaluations completed in a timely way. That was incredibly encouraging to hear you say a few minutes ago that 85% of your evaluations were completed on time this year, and I'd love to see you continue that progress to get to 100%. The report from the staff also talks about your performance with OSSE's report in terms of losing points in the student progress domain, and also having in 2023 the lowest performance in the public charter school sector on the CPER report. And you mentioned a few minutes ago that you're seeing some encouraging progress on CAPE with your special education students. Can you just take us a level deeper? So talk through what your goals are for students with IEPs in the coming years. I know SBAC creates a challenge with measurement, but can you just talk about what you are aiming to achieve and what specific strategies you're using to achieve those results and how you know whether you're on the right track or not?
Sure. I'll speak at a high level, and then I'd love to invite both Rashida as our academic committee chair and Katie to talk a little bit more about this. But I think our goal is that we are serving all students in line with what the research says, which is that 80 to 90% of students, that includes those with disabilities, should be able to form on grade level with the appropriate accommodations, modifications, and supports. We know that, from a compliance perspective and certainly from an outcomes perspective, that our school needs to invest an additional amount to serve the size of our special education population, which nearly doubled in both overall absolute numbers and proportion of our overall student population to where it is now in line with citywide numbers. We do, in our strategic plan, have specific subgroups for specific goals every year to a 5-year target for every single group of students, so that we are accountable to ourselves, our board, and our community, that we are actually moving towards and serving all of our families. And Along those lines, we are looking and discussing with our academic committee on a regular basis. Just here is just the setting of those goals, but we expect later this year to be the first year that we report against that progress. I'll turn it over to Katie to talk a little bit more about the specific strategies that we're using.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be with you tonight. I am Katie Lundgren, the Chief Academic Officer for Mundo Verde, and I am very excited to talk about how we get from the floor to closer to the ceiling in our next phase, specifically in the way that we serve our special education students. As Shalini mentioned, the past few years have really been focused on compliance and getting our numbers into for reevaluation and timeliness into compliance. Our immediate work in the future is really focused on increasing quality for students with disabilities, multilingual learners, and others with learning differences. And I should mention that even over the review period, while we didn't see as much movement in the level 4 proficiency, 4+ proficiency, both our students with IEPs scoring level 3 and higher in both ELA actually did increase, and in math it actually doubled. So we're really pleased with that. So our theory of action really centers around 3 things. One is strengthening vision and leadership of special education. Number 2 is investing in high quality instructional materials, both core instructional materials as well as intervention. And then third, improving campus level teaming and MTSS structures to make sure that we are that our teachers, alongside their leaders, are looking closely at student progress on a regular basis, so that we are identifying students who are struggling to get them on track sooner. In the next year, we will enhance our campus-based leadership teams to include an assistant principal solely focused on high-quality service to students with disabilities, multilingual learners, and students with 504s. Those APs will be part of the instructional leadership team, working in collaboration with principals and other core content instructional leaders to make sure that we are serving all students in reaching high grade level standards in all classrooms. We will also have new leadership at the network level that's really centered on high quality consistency across the network as far as IEP completion, IEP team development, IEP goal writing, et cetera, as well as meeting the various compliance pieces. As Shalini mentioned briefly, we are very proud to be at a phase where we're adopting a high quality curriculum for biliteracy from Amplify next year, which comes with a host of materials that will be used to supplement the core curriculum for interventions and acceleration. So we're excited to add on to what our teachers, our special education teachers have been using, which has been Orton Gillingham, Wilson Reading System, to make sure that we're really embedding curriculum aligned and standards aligned interventions as well. And then finally, the MTSS protocols will be implemented with really consistent practices across the campuses of looking closely at student data to make sure that we are quickly identifying students in need of support and providing them with interventions rather than jumping to a special education referral or letting them slip through the cracks. So we are already seeing those improvements take hold with our students at the middle of year with data, and we're really excited to jump into the next phase.
I just wanted to add one note. As you all know, Shalini, this is her first full year. When we were doing the executive director search, one of the things we were looking for and talked a lot about in her interview, and we're looking at her previous experience, was somebody with deep knowledge of special education, a person who would acknowledge any gaps that we have and would be really open to and excited about tackling those gaps. So that had a lot to do with Shalini even landing in this ED spot. And then when Shalini was building out the leadership team, one of the primary reasons we knew Katie was going to be a great fit is because we also understood her track record and her dedication to working with students with disabilities. So it's been a through line in the hiring process of this past year of making sure that we had leaders in place that would know what to do and would be ready to tackle it.
Thanks, Rashida, and thank you, Katie and Shalini, for the really thoughtful answer. And thank you, Rashida, for the work the board is doing to really prioritize your students with IEPs.
Thank you. Again, thank you, Mundo Verde team. I have just a few questions here. My first question is actually around the differences with your campuses around goal attainment. So while both campuses met or substantially met their goals each year, we do see a variation in outcomes across campuses. Specifically, Mundo Verde Cook did not fully meet a goal attainment pathway in school years 22-23 or 23-24. Would love to just hear a bit about what factors you all believe contributed to this variation, and then would love to hear what actions you're taking to ensure students across both locations experience strong academic outcomes.
Katie, can you take this one?
Sure thing. Yes. So as you've heard, I hope that you can hear clearly that we are a school and a leadership team that believes strongly in high quality education for all students. And it is our responsibility to make sure that we are better serving all of our students across both campuses. We also believe in admitting students at various grade levels in the program. Even though we are a bilingual school that demands a lot from students in both languages. We do believe that having access to high quality bilingual education is a life-changing opportunity for students from all walks of life. And so we remain committed to that, even in the face of challenges with admitting students late to the program, or students from backgrounds that may not have the access at home to practicing the language or the academic content in their home language. And it is no secret that we've historically struggled to adequately support students evenly across both campuses. And at the same time, we have had substantially more disruptions that have affected our Cook campus in the last few years than affected our Calle Ocho campus. If you recall, that is where the big community rifts really took place that were taking place at the same time as unionization, starting at the Cook campus. There have been quite a few conflicts within the community due to neighborhood violence that have caused a number of Cook families to unenroll or transfer. And we've had some internal leadership turnover in the last few years that has particularly affected the Cook campus. In my first year as CAO, we have really focused on alignment across the two campuses. So we are now holding monthly walkthroughs at both campuses with consistent instructional look-fors. We are holding PD planning meetings and PD execution meetings with our leadership teams across both campuses so that we are really talking the same talk across campuses in terms of instructional expectations and leadership expectations. We have also really normed as a principal team across campuses on what are the non-negotiables that we need to see in all of our classrooms. Because of that norming, we are already starting to see greater parity between the campuses. As Shalini mentioned before, at the middle of year, both campuses are trending higher this year than they were last year compared to the national norm in English and math on the map. And then we've also seen a significant number of grade levels at both campuses with increases from last year to this year in English reading, Spanish reading, and math. So we have some promising early data points here, and we're going to continue to refine our practices and align our excellent leadership and our vision across both campuses in the coming years.
Thank you, Katie. I would just add to that to put a finer point on, where Katie started. We as a team and board and school are so committed to serving all students, and we definitely have a population with a higher need at our JF campus, Cook campus. We do not think that explains all of the difference. And when you have gaps in, for example, a solid curriculum or system, you're going to see those gaps exacerbated if you have a higher need student population. And so we do think that creates some urgency for us around around particularly tightening those systems and those core components at the Cook campus. But as Katie mentioned, the work she's been doing around consistent PD, around consistently looking for some of the same for example, science of reading aligned science instruction in early grades or standards unpacking in upper grades. We have been impressed with how quickly we've seen student engagement and the rigor of teacher practice improve and come up to the same, become more similar to what we're seeing at the Cayocho campus.
Got it. Thank you so much. I'm going to pivot now. Since our treasurer is recused, I do have a few financial questions that I'd like to direct to staff first. And then if the Mundo Verde team would like to chime in as well, please feel free to do so. So thank you, Will, for joining us. My first question. The subsequent events memo says that Mundo Verde reported $900K in 2023 and 2.2 million in 2024 from things like an interest rate swap and ending a lease. Did the school actually receive that cash, or was this just an accounting adjustment?
Yeah. Thanks, Chair, for the question. This was not cash that the school received. This was accounting only adjustments required under standard accounting rules, generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. They show up on the financial statements, but no money actually came in from those items.
Thank you, Will. With Mundo Verde, the team, would you like to add anything, or we can keep going? All right, very good. Thank you. Okay. So thank you, Will, for that clarification then. Secondly, the review report says that the school showed operating losses in 2023 and 2024, partially because of depreciation, amortization, and non-cash lease expenses. What does that mean? Non-cash lease expenses?
Yeah, fair question, Chair. So these are accounting expenses, not extra cash the school paid out. Under current accounting rules, lease costs have to be spread across the full life of the lease and recorded evenly, even if the actual rent payments are lower in the earlier years and increase later. So on paper, the financial statements may show a loss, even though a school's actual cash flow from day-to-day operations is still positive.
Thank you for that, Will. And then my final question. The school's cash flow from operations dropped from 26% in the unaudited FY25 statements to 7% in the audited version because of reclassification of construction-related cash flows. What changed? And was this an accounting mistake? And if so, how will the school prevent this in the future?
Yeah, thanks. So at first, we understood the stronger cash flow was mainly due to normal business activity like collecting money owed to the school, receiving unexpected ERTC funds, and interest related adjustments. But when the audited statements were completed, some cash related to construction and property projects was moved to a different section of the cash flow statement. So instead of being counted as cash used in investing cash, more of it was correctly categorized as cash used in operations. This reduced the reported operating cash flow from 26 to 7%. And it appears to be more of a classification correction than a change in actual cash. However, for this question, Chair, the LEA should be able to provide some more detail on exactly why those entries were reclassified and what internal review steps they're using to avoid similar issues going forward. So, Mundo, you may want to chime in here.
I'll start, and then I'm happy to pass this over to Maria Jose and Ed from the staff and board perspective. Um, One of the things that I've really come to understand stepping into this executive director role, but also previous work working with many charters that scaled from 1 to 2 sites, is it can take time to understand and put in place the staffing that you need to be in at scale. Maria Jose is our organization's first permanent chief finance officer, following an interim chief financial officer who I put in place last March, soon after I became ED, realizing that the size of our organization and our budget, a $36 million budget, um, required some really significant financial leadership. And so while we do work closely with AdOps as an accountant, AdOps, as well as our auditors, do rely on how our internal team is able to classify and share information. And so we have definitely been working through one, having the appropriate level of financial leadership and expertise to make sure that we have all of the systems in place needed for an organization of our scale. And certainly, one of the things that we have noticed is that we have places where we need to do a better job with both of our own team and our EdOps partners and making sure we understand how our various expenditures and revenues are coded in our general ledger. Um, and so we have, certainly heard feedback from both our auditors and EdOps that clarity in our financial management has significantly improved in the last year, and also heard similar feedback on our overall financial position and management from Eagle Bank, which is our primary lender. But Maria Jose, I'll happy to share anything you may add. And then certainly Ed, I think just speaking to how the board oversees and has overseen the strengthening of our financial management.
Sure, I could get started. Good evening, everyone. It was said, my name is Maria Jose. I've been 4 months at Mundo Verde, and part of my job has been really understand the wonderful world that we are, but also, of course, our finances. Shalini's answered most of the question. What I would add here is that in the last year, we have undergone a lot of effort to tighten our financial controls and our financial procedures. That's definitely helping us make sure that we clean up our systems in order to be able to prevent things like this from happening in the future. Additionally, I'd like to mention that we have quite what I consider a complex debt plan. We have consolidated all our loans now into like a big loan that will help us significantly. But before that conversion happened, we had a lot of different moving parts that contributed to this situation. I don't know if Ed would like to add something.
Ed, could you speak to the board's role in this from the finance committee specifically?
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name is Ed Pauls. I'm the board president. Been in this position for a year and a half. Been back on the board for 2 years now. So one of the things that's happened as Shalini said, especially in the past year, as the board has grown back to a more functional size, we were originally down to 5 members when I rejoined 2 years ago. is building up our operating board committees, one of which is our finance and audit committee. And one of the things that Shalini said to me the first time that we met in person was she wanted to hire finance staff to work at the senior position, at the senior level. And I supported that 100%. So that's a lot of that outgrowth is the reporting and the connection between the senior finance staff, now Maria Jose, and our finance and audit committee. Frankly, as I said, giving better data and information to EdOps, so that I think in the past there was a little bit too much reliance on EdOps to kind of catch some of these issues because we didn't have tight enough systems, and there's been a lot of improvement over that in the past year. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Very clear. I will turn it to Board Member Cruzy.
Thank you, Chair Adamafanian. I just wanted to offer my appreciation to the board and acknowledge the senior staff, Shalini and team. This charter schools are ultimately about governance, and the big challenges that you have faced over the last couple of years and the progress that you are continuing to make reflects some very hard work and some hard choices that have been made by this board. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for that.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, almost there. One more question. It's my standard question. As you've heard tonight. So we're back here. We're celebrating your 30th year. What's the headline about Mundo Verde? What are we excited about that you've been able to accomplish over the last 15 years? Your next 15, yeah, you get it.
A couple of things. I'm imagining a headline, and the subtitle under there. But I would say first and foremost, what our community has said over and over is that we have actually lived our mission. We have proved specifically that we can do this work for all kids, and that is reflected in our outcomes. But it's also reflected in, the students that are coming back, like the alum that we heard today, and the students I see all the time around the city when I have my Windows shirt on or my kids have my Windows shirt on, a wide range of students that have achieved a successful life where they are making change in their communities because of the impact our school has had on them. I also want the headline to read that trajectory can change and improve. I think a year ago, as a parent, I don't know that I would have expected our community to speak as they did earlier this evening. And I want that to be true because it has to be true for students in DC. It has to be true that with thoughtful intention and hard work, smart people who are asking hard questions and the investment of the community, that you can get better. And finally, I would want to be a story that labor organization and labor and management can have strong and successful relationships in the charter sector. We are the longest unionized charter in the city, and we are currently negotiating quite pleasantly our third collective bargaining agreement. And we have made tremendous progress with the changes we hope, and they're not all easy, that we hope teachers will make in service of our students, but also as a management team delivering on the requests of our staff. And that has not been, I think that is not something that I take for granted, and not something I think I would have had even this perspective on prior to sitting in this role in this community. But I do think, I hope that's an important lesson that we see 15 years from now as well.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that response. All right, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to renew the charter of Mundo Verde Public Charter School.
Second.
Oh, all right. Secretary Marino, please conduct the roll call vote.
Chair Adamafanian.
I am an aye, and by proxy, Board Member Williams is an aye as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
Congratulations. Aye.
Board Member Sandman.
Aye.
And I am an aye. The motion carries.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Mundo Verde team. Well done. And if I could take a point of chair privilege, I'm learning I have that a little bit. Two points. Shalini, one, I want to publicly acknowledge that I did mispronounce your name. Names are important to me, so I do apologize. But then two, I actually want to commend you. It's not easy stepping into an ED role and having to work with the team to build faith and trust and build the team that is so needed for your students. But in partnership with your team, it sounds like the parents and whatnot, you've figured that out. And so I just want to publicly congratulate you for your hard work. Because leadership isn't easy. It can be lonely, but you're not alone. It's very, very clear. So congratulations to you and the team. And I look forward to celebrating your 30th year, all the things you laid out. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all so much.
All righty. We'll wait for Treasurer Stanley Beatty to return to the room. Oh, okay, very good. We'll await her return. She's going to return. She's not here. She's returning. All right, very good. So next, the board will vote to open. Welcome back, Treasurer. Next, the board will vote to open revisions to two related policies for public comment. I'd like to invite Kirsten James Floyd, Director in the School Performance Department, to introduce both. Kirsten, welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, introduce both the Aspire Policy and Technical Guide and Charter Goals Policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kirsten James Floyd. I'm a director in the School Performance Department. DCPCSB staff recommends that the board open proposed revisions to the Aspire Policy and Technical Guide and the Charter Goals Policy for public comment after tonight's board meeting through May 18th, 2026. DCPCSB will consider all public comments received during this period before the final vote. The Aspire Policy and Technical Guide and the Charter Goals Policy are sister policies that define DCPCSB's academic accountability system. The Aspire Policy and Technical Guide establishes how school performance is measured, evaluated, and communicated through a common accountability system, while the Charter Goals Policy defines how school-specific academic goals are set, monitored, and assessed in charter reviews and renewals. We are committed to ensuring the Aspire system is a reliable and transparent measure of school performance. As a part of this commitment, the Aspire Policy and Technical Guide will generally be updated annually to reflect necessary refinements and clarifications. The revisions we are proposing cover three areas: clarifying business rules, updating floors and targets, and establishing a grace and acclimation period in school year 26-27. The proposed revisions to the Charter Goals Policy focus on incorporating the proposed school year 2026-27 grace and acclimation period language into the policy. As staff discussed with the board in December 2025, the proposed grace and acclimation period for school year 26-27 is a response to the new state assessment schools will begin administering next school year. The grace and acclimation period would apply to schools subject to the pre-K to 8 and high school frameworks that serve any combination of grades 3 through 12. We look forward to providing more details about the proposed changes during the public hearing on May 18th. Anyone may submit a comment through DCPCSB's website via email to public.comment@dcpcsb.org or by mail to 100 M Street Southeast, Suite 400. Anyone wishing to provide testimony before the board may do so during the public hearing on May 18th. The board is scheduled to vote on both policies at the June 29th public meeting.
Thank you, Kirsten. Colleagues, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to open the Aspire Policy and Technical Guide and Charter Goals Policy for public comment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Secretary Marino, please conduct a roll call vote.
Chair Autumn-Afanian.
I am an aye, and by proxy, Board Member Williams is an aye as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
Aye.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
Aye.
Board Member Sandman.
Aye.
And I am an aye. The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Kirsten. All right. Moving right along, I'll now yield the floor to Treasurer Stanley Beatty to introduce the finance report.
I'll yield to Will Henderson, our COO.
You got to yield slower, Treasurer. I was walking across the room here. Good evening, all. My name is Will Henderson. I'm DC PCSB's Chief Operating Officer. The PCSB Finance Committee has not met since the March 23rd board meeting and is scheduled to meet again in May. I'm pleased to share some positive news tonight. Social Justice Public Charter School was initially placed on the monitoring list due to declining enrollment trends and uncertainties surrounding its facilities relocation that we discussed earlier this evening. Following our review of their latest enrollment data and a 5-year budget received in connection with their charter amendment application, PCSB deemed that Social Justice Public Charter School addressed the concerns that originally placed them on the financial monitoring list and transitioned the LEA off the list as of April 21st of this year. We commend the school's strategic execution and fiscal discipline, and as the LEA continue to proactively address its financial management concerns that we shared. We believe that their plan will continue to foster long-term success, and so we're excited to share this information.
Thank you for that, Will. I want to just make a note. It's not that we didn't meet. We were supposed to meet because we have regularity and we have a tenor with which we meet. We didn't meet when we were supposed to because of me. So I want to share that for the purposes of the record. We were supposed to meet. That's number one. Number two, it's great news that we are demonstrating that LEAs are working within the confines of our financial oversight, and they are adhering to our guidelines. And when they are performing in a way that's satisfactory, we are transitioning them off the monitoring list as appropriate. So that's amazing news. In that continuum, can you just talk about when we do transition a LEA off the monitoring list, what further diligence we may do or what further oversight we may do, although they've been transitioned off, just in general, not specifically to any LEA?
Yeah, not specific to social justice. Yeah, so transitioning off the monitoring list does not change our routine and rhythmic scrutiny of an LEA's finances. We are providing ongoing financial oversight. In the most traditional sense, we review schools' quarterly financials, and as you learned talking about several schools and over the course of the last several months, we assess economic viability with various amendments, whether it's facility related or something else. And so there are frequent touch points with our schools. And so when a school transitions off the monitoring list, we have typically established quite a close relationship with that school. And so we are pressure testing that longevity and continuing to ensure in the natural quarterly touch points that they are that evidence towards sustainability is proving to be the case. And so we've got lots of opportunities to touch bases with a school. And as you might predict, we do our due diligence when we're removing a school from the monitoring list. So it would be unexpected for them quickly to return to the monitoring list because we are looking also for sustainability. And as you spoke earlier tonight, we're looking for some evidence of a trend that they can, in fact, hang on to the economic viability beyond just today. And so we will, but in theory, our oversight would create room that if what convinced us that they did not need to be on the monitoring list, we are able to be nimble enough to pivot and put ratchet up scrutiny again and put a school back on the monitoring list if something new came to light that had not prior, been available to us.
Thank you for that. I think it's really important for us to highlight, like I said, when we have these moments of celebration. The other piece that I'm pleased to hear you say is that when we're looking at transitioning schools on and off the monitoring list, that we're obviously evaluating them for the particular thing that got them on the monitoring list, whether that's a specific KFI or a specific cash event or whatever. You're looking to that to make sure that that has been remedied, but you're not stopping short there. We're also having conversations about longevity and about trends, and that there is some degree of sort of forward looking, or I'll call it future predicting,
Yeah, 100%.
whenever you're doing evaluations about where they land in terms of financial oversight, because I think that's really, really important. And we'll continue to have more robust conversations about trending versus just what I call point in time sort of financial indicators.
Yes, I mean, it's a great point, and I think that what we are, a school is incentivized to share an accurate picture with us, and are also working to resolve the things that we have placed them on the monitoring list. Our job is to also make sure that's transparent to them, but to scrutinize their contingencies and their projections in a conservative way, so that what we are looking forward to, while we can expect some variance, that's of course reasonable, has some sticking power out into the future.
Thank you, Will.
Wonderful. Thank you, Treasurer Stanley Beatty, and Will and Treasurer, thank you for exemplifying and demonstrating transparency as we build a road of trust. I appreciate that. Thank you all. All right. That's it. We're gonna keep moving. Thank you. Thank you both. Right? Okay. Yeah. You just stay right there. I'm sure another question will come. It's late in the hour. Here we go. All right. Next, we will vote on the consent calendar. Would any board member like to remove an item from the calendar for further discussion or state a recusal for the record?
Chair Adipafanian, I am recused from 2 LEAs on the list here, Basis DC and Two Rivers.
Thank you.
Chair, I'm recused from DC Scholars, Friendship, and Sojourner Truth Public Charter Schools.
Thank you. And I'll name that I am recused from 1 LEA, Statesman Public Charter School. All right. And just before we take this vote, I have a question for Dr. Walker Davis. Just a question around accessibility of LEA board notes. Just curious, do any of the accessibility concerns affect staff's recommendations to approve these schools' adoption of the Aspire framework on the consent calendar?
Thank you, Chair. We are aware of some comment regarding that, and we appreciate it. I do want to name that each school that is seeking our approval to use Aspire as their goals, their boards voted on that adoption and submitted the meeting minutes demonstrating their approval of the shift. Those minutes are attached to our public meeting materials and on our website. We have confidence in the legitimacy of those records, and we also have confidence in the Office of Open Government in monitoring schools' adherence to open meetings. So we do not have any challenges with our recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Walker Davis. And again, thank you to our stakeholders who keep us accountable, and we do follow up. So thank you very much. And with that, colleagues, I will now entertain a motion.
I move to approve all items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Secretary Marino, please conduct a roll call vote.
Chair Adipafanian.
I am an aye, noting my recusal for Statesman, and my colleague, board member William, is an aye as well.
Vice Chair Yan.
I'm an aye, noting my recusals.
Treasurer Stanley Beatty.
Aye.
Board Member Cruzy.
I am an aye as well, noting my recusals.
Board Member Sandman.
Aye.
And I am an aye. The motion carries.
Thank you. And for the public, I'll note the board is reading into record tonight the subsequent financial update memos for the schools who have undergone review and renewal for the evening. All right, new business. Is there any new business? All right. Since we have completed tonight's agenda,
If there are no objections, I now declare this meeting adjourned. We got it. That's it.